adverse, adverse.
Something that has an adverse effect can be harmful, dangerous, or unfavorable.
I worry that the tornado will have an adverse effect on the farm.
Alternate, alternate.
An alternate option is a different option.
Taking the bus and driving to work are alternate ways to travel.
Biodegradable, biodegradable.
Materials that are biodegradable break down naturally into substances that do not harm the environment.
I use biodegradable compost to feed my garden.
Boxed, boxed.
When something is boxed, it is inside a package.
Justine brought a boxed gift to the birthday party.
Choke, choke.
If you choke on something, it stops you from breathing.
The gum Melinda swallowed made her choke.
Convenient, convenient.
When something is convenient, it saves you time or effort.
Walking through the park is a convenient way to exercise on the way to work.
Discard, discard.
To discard something is to throw it away.
After repairing the window, discard any broken glass.
Dolphin, dolphin.
A dolphin is a large sea mammal that breathes air.
Intelligent dolphins have learned to communicate with humans.
Ecologically, ecologically.
Ecologically means that something is done in a way that concerns living organisms and the environment.
We planted our garden according to ecologically correct practices.
Fatal, fatal.
Something that is fatal results in someone's death.
Being shot by the attacker proved fatal to the victim.
Incidents, incidents.
The number of times something happens is the incidence of the event.
We need to increase the incidence of success in school.
Municipal, municipal.
Municipal means that something belongs to a city or local government.
The municipal parking lot downtown can fit 100 cars.
Overuse, overuse.
Overuse occurs when something is utilized too many times.
Rochelle's overuse of the exercise bike caused the gears to break.
Pond, pond.
A pond is a freshwater body that is smaller than a lake.
I learned to swim at the pond behind the recreation center.
Recycle, recycle.
When you recycle an object, you use its parts to make something else.
We recycle our newspapers so that they can be made into packing boxes.
Reusable, reusable.
An object that is reusable can be utilized over and over again.
Saburo keeps his empty jelly jars because they are reusable for storing sewing supplies.
Stuffed, stuffed.
When something is stuffed, it is pushed into a small space.
The newspapers were all stuffed into the drawer.
Tragic, tragic.
A tragic event causes sadness because it might involve death or suffering.
The entire community attended the memorial service for the victims of the tragic fire.
Utilize, utilize. To utilize something is to use it for a specific purpose.
The team can utilize the lab equipment to complete the experiment.
Whale, whale.
A whale is a very large mammal that lives in the ocean.
We were surprised when a whale surfaced next to our boat.
Environment over convenience. Plastic shopping bags are utilized almost everywhere. They are lightweight, strong, and inexpensive. Customers like them because they make carrying goods so convenient. Stores of all kinds print advertising messages on the bags and give them to customers. Why then are so many countries regulating or even banning their use? Unfortunately, because of these very attributes, plastic bags have an adverse effect on the environment. Their low cost leads to their overuse. For example, environmental groups have estimated that in Taiwan, citizens used to discard 16 million plastic bags a day. Residents of the state of Massachusetts in the United States used more than 2 billion plastic bags per year. Since plastic is made from chemicals found in oil, these single-use bags never break down and decay. When they are thrown away, they last forever, along roads, in ponds, and eventually in the oceans. There is no proven or efficient way to remove plastics once they enter large bodies of water. Some animals that dwell in the sea, such as turtles and dolphins, mistake plastic bags for food. If a bag becomes stuffed down their throats, it can cause fatal suffocation. Thousands of animals choke on the bags every year. Eventually, the plastic fragments may break down into smaller pieces, but they can still be ingested by a wide range of sea animals, from oysters to whales. In this way, microplastics enter the human food chain and cause tragic damage to people's health. Beginning around the year 2000, cities, provinces, and entire countries decided to take action against this form of pollution. At first, municipal governments tried to minimize the use of these bags by requiring stores to charge customers for each one. This reduced the incidence of bags entering the waste stream, yet billions of bags were still being thrown out each day. As the costs of trying to clean the environment rose, more places enacted outright bans on the bags. Now, ecologically conscious people around the world use alternate means of carrying packages. They bring their own reusable bags when they go shopping, pack their purchases in paper bags, recycle the bags in special collection bins, or have their purchases boxed and delivered to their homes in biodegradable packaging.
Amateur. Amateur.
An amateur is a person who does something for fun and isn't paid for it.
The amateur took pictures just as well as the person who worked for money.
Ambiguous. Ambiguous.
If something is ambiguous, it is not entirely clear.
It's ambiguous as to whether a newborn baby looks like a girl or a boy.
Anonymous. Anonymous.
If someone is anonymous, no one knows who he or she is.
An anonymous donor gave $1,000 to the museum.
Attain. Attain.
To attain something is to succeed at something, or to get something you want.
If you want to attain a healthy body, you must exercise every day.
Autonomy. Autonomy.
Autonomy is another word for freedom or independence.
In the 1800s, the people of India fought for autonomy from Britain.
Concession. Concession.
A concession is something that one person gives up to another.
China gave Hong Kong to Britain as a concession after the war.
Decay. Decay.
Decay is the result of something slowly being broken down or destroyed naturally.
The decay in the old building was obvious.
Dwell. Dwell.
To dwell somewhere means to live there.
Before he was a successful writer, Mark Twain dwelled in the city of Hannibal, Missouri.
Enlighten. Enlighten.
To enlighten someone is to teach them about something.
Greek philosophers wanted to enlighten the people of Athens with their ideas.
Enrich. Enrich.
To enrich means to make someone rich or increase their wealth.
Taxes on people's income can be used to enrich the government.
flourish, flourish.
To flourish means to do very well and be in an excellent condition.
The Roman Empire flourished in Europe 2,000 years ago.
Geometry, geometry.
Geometry is the study of shapes and how to measure them.
If you want to be able to calculate the area of a circle, you must study geometry.
Gleam, gleam.
To gleam means to sparkle and shine.
The waves of the ocean would gleam every night at sunset.
Greed, greed.
Greed is wanting to have more of something than you need or should have.
The story of King Midas is a story of greed.
Harmony, harmony.
Harmony is a feeling that everything is peaceful, balanced, and in agreement.
The United Nations is struggling to bring peace and harmony to the world.
Indigenous, indigenous.
Indigenous means that something or someone exists naturally in an environment or area.
The Pueblo people were an indigenous tribe in Arizona who lived in adobe homes.
Jurisdiction, jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction means the power or right to make judgments about the law and how it is upheld.
We did not have jurisdiction to bring the criminal to trial.
Parade, parade.
A parade is a series of things or people that come or are shown one after another.
This parade of elephants is part of an open-air exhibit to honor these majestic animals.
Statue, statue.
A statue is a three-dimensional work of art, usually made of clay, marble, or metal.
The Venus de Milo is a famous ancient Greek statue.
Virgin, virgin.
A virgin is someone who has never had sex.
The virgin goddess of the moon was known as Diana. Debate over the Elgin marbles. The Elgin marbles consists of a parade of beautiful statues of gods and goddesses from Athens, a Greek city named for Athena, the virgin goddess of wisdom and warfare. The statues were sculpted at a time when Athens was flourishing and perhaps the most powerful city in the world. These works of art were once brightly painted and gleamed in the sunshine, but today, 2,500 years later, many of them are broken and have lost their color. The anonymous artists who created them were very skilled in geometry, which is apparent in the sense of balance and harmony that they possess. The statues continue to awe those who come from around the world to view them. Even now, the Elgin marbles enlighten artists about the creation of beauty. In the 1800s, Lord Elgin visited Athens from England. He was an amateur art lover who was saddened to see that the statues had fallen into decay. He asked the Sultan of Turkey, who then ruled Athens, if he could buy the statues. The Sultan agreed in the hopes of enriching his kingdom. And since he found the statues to be of little importance, he willingly made the concession. Lord Elgin had just attained some of the most important treasures in art history. He brought the Elgin marbles to England and donated them to the British Museum, where they remain to this day. However, after the Greeks obtained autonomy from Turkey, their leaders complained about the sale. They believed that the Sultan of Turkey never had jurisdiction to sell the statues in the first place, and that the beautiful works of art did not belong in England. Instead, they should be returned to Athens, where indigenous Greeks have always dwelled. However, the British Museum has refused to return the Elgin marbles. They say they will not feed the greed of the Greeks, and that their claims to the statues are ambiguous at best. They believe the British paid for the statues fairly and in compliance with all the laws of the time.
Abnormal. Abnormal.
If something is abnormal, it is different from normal or average.
I felt abnormal this morning, like I was sick.
Absent. Absent.
If someone or something is absent, they are missing or not in the place they are expected to be.
I was absent from school yesterday because I went on a trip with my father.
Adjacent. Adjacent.
When something is adjacent, it is next to or adjoining something else.
My apartment is adjacent to a lovely park and playground.
Aluminum. Aluminum.
Aluminum is a chemical element that is a light silver-colored metal.
I use the aluminum foil to wrap the food.
Applicable. Applicable.
If something is applicable to a person or thing, it is relevant to them.
I discovered that my old password was no longer applicable to the website.
Artificial. Artificial.
If something is artificial, it was not made naturally, but mimics something natural.
The artificial Christmas tree was made of plastic.
Bicycle. Bicycle.
A bicycle is a two-wheeled vehicle powered by pedaling.
I rode my bicycle down the mountain road.
Broker. Broker.
To broker is to arrange or negotiate the details of something for others.
The lawyer will broker our agreement.
Bureaucracy. Bureaucracy.
A bureaucracy is a group of people who work together to help manage a large business or run a country.
The members of the bureaucracy were flooded by too many petitions.
Configure. Configure.
To configure something means to set it up and arrange it.
The engineer helped to configure my new computer.
Consolidate. Consolidate.
To consolidate means to join or bring together into one thing.
When we moved in together, we had to consolidate our belongings.
Convenience. Convenience.
If something is done for your convenience, it allows you to do something easily or without any trouble.
I love the convenience of having a swimming pool in my backyard.
Deduct. Deduct.
To deduct means to subtract something.
I had to deduct my expenses from my checkbook.
Deem. Deem.
To deem means to consider something.
I deemed the ice cream to be very delicious.
Entrepreneur. Entrepreneur.
An entrepreneur is someone who starts a new business or organization in order to make money.
The entrepreneur made a success out of his new business.
Evenly. Evenly.
If something is evenly spread or spaced, it is divided equally into amounts, numbers, or values.
Sprinkle the sugar evenly all over the cookies.
Fiscal. Fiscal.
When something is fiscal, it is related to money or finances, especially that of a government or business.
Did the company show fiscal growth this year?
Franchise. Franchise.
A franchise is the right to sell another company's products or services in a particular area.
The fast food restaurant has a franchise near my home.
Ideological. Ideological.
If something is ideological, it is based on a system of beliefs or ideals, especially those that relate to a government or economy.
The citizens of England had ideological differences about its government.
Robot. Robot.
A robot is a machine that can do the work of a person and operates automatically, or is controlled by a computer.
I bought a robot that can clean the floor on its own.
Globalization. Today, it is not at all abnormal for the goods you purchase to come from around the world. Sometimes a single item is comprised of parts constructed in many different countries. This is applicable to almost anything you can buy today. Consider a sweater. The wool may be woven by a robot in China, dyed using artificial colors from India, and sold in the United States. Long ago, the fiscal cost of importing or exporting items from foreign countries was high, and manufacturers considered the practice to be fiscally irresponsible. By contrast, prices were low for goods that were made at home or in adjacent countries. Nowadays, however, the convenience of importing and exporting goods is in large part due to globalization. Globalization means more closely connected countries. Merchants broker deals between entrepreneurs from across the globe to consolidate their costs and configure the lowest prices for their products. Imagine your company wants to start manufacturing bicycles and selling them. If a factory close to home did everything, it would be expensive. A bureaucracy would need to approve every decision, and its members would need to be paid. Some workers would be hired to mine the aluminum and others to find the rubber. Then others would build the bikes and market them to local stores. However, dividing the tasks evenly between different countries in order to deduct or minimize certain costs makes a lot more sense. Paying for metal mined in Brazil and shaped in the Philippines can save manufacturing costs. Building the bikes in China, where prices are low, and selling them to Japan, where prices are high, can help a business owner make higher profits. The consensus among many traders is that globalization has helped them become wealthy. Globalization, however, has its negative side as well, as local workers sometimes lose out to absent laborers in distant lands. For this reason, many commentators deem globalization as something negative. The ideological differences between supporters of globalization may clash with politicians who pass laws that try to limit it. Yet, despite critiques, globalization continues to grow stronger. United States franchises like McDonald's, for example, can be found around the world, and almost all machines have parts that are made in China.
Abbey. Abbey.
An abbey is a house or group of houses where monks or nuns live.
When the monk returned to the abbey, he went immediately to his bedroom.
Abundant. Abundant.
If something is abundant, then it is available in large quantities.
Cakes, cookies, and candy were so abundant that the child was very happy.
Adjoin. Adjoin.
To adjoin something means to be next to or attached to something else.
She can listen to her brother's conversations because her room adjoins his.
Ample. Ample.
If something is ample, then it is enough, or more than enough.
There was an ample supply of oats to feed the horses.
Arid. Arid.
If a place is arid, then it is hot and dry and gets very little or no rain.
Not many plants grow in the arid desert.
Cathedral. Cathedral.
A cathedral is an important and often large and beautifully built church.
The large cathedral is full of people on Sunday mornings.
Crisis. Crisis.
A crisis is a difficult time when things are going to either get worse or better.
The crisis was over, and things returned to normal.
Deprive. Deprive.
To deprive someone of something means to not let them have it.
Because the child was bad, she was deprived of her dessert after dinner.
Drought. Drought.
A drought is a long period of time in which little or no rain falls.
After 3 months of drought, the vegetation and trees started dying.
eligible, eligible.
If someone is eligible, then they are permitted to do or have something.
Only people who bought tickets were eligible to win a prize.
Fast, fast.
To fast means to go without food or drink for a period of time.
In her religion, they fast for 5 days and then have a big feast.
Grumble, grumble.
To grumble means to complain.
He grumbled about having to work late on Friday.
Inland, inland.
If someone goes inland, they travel into the center of a country or land.
The river curved inland near the campground.
Moisture, moisture.
Moisture is small drops of water in the air or on a surface.
If you breathe on a window, moisture from your breath collects on the glass.
Nonetheless, nonetheless.
If something happens nonetheless, then it occurs despite some other thing.
She tried to keep the dog out of the mud, but it got dirty nonetheless.
Oath, oath.
An oath is a formal, often public promise.
Judges must take an oath to be fair to everyone in court.
Prairie, prairie.
A prairie is a large, flat area of grassland.
The prairie was perfect for a farm because there were hills and trees.
Rugged, rugged.
If an area of land is rugged, then it is rocky and difficult to travel through.
Their car couldn't make it far along the rugged roads.
Scarce, scarce.
If something is scarce, then there is a very small amount of it.
When gasoline was scarce, we rode our bike to school instead of driving.
Speculate, speculate.
To speculate means to guess about something.
My sister looked at the sky and speculated that it would rain tomorrow. The Helpful Abbey. It had not rained on the prairie for several months. Because of the drought, the climate had become very arid. There was no moisture left in the soil. No crops could grow in the dry ground. By winter time, the people had nothing to eat. The hungry families heard about an abbey near the mountains where food and water was still abundant. So they traveled inland across the prairie to the abbey. At first, only a few families arrived, seeking food and shelter. Then there was ample food. The monks fed them and let them sleep in the small cathedral. Soon, however, more families were arriving every day. These people had to travel farther, so they were in worse condition. The rugged journey had brought them to the edge of a crisis. They were cold and tired. The tiny cathedral was soon full. Food became scarce. The monks began to grumble. They began to speculate that there would be no food. "If more families come, we won't make it through the winter," said a young monk. "We must ask some of them to leave." The abbot heard this. "We cannot do that," he said. "It would be wrong to deprive them of food and shelter. We took an oath to help those that need help. All here are in need, so all are eligible to receive our food and shelter." "But we won't have enough," the monk said. "That might be true, but we must help them nonetheless. We will fast," the abbot replied. "Also, we will give our rooms in the abbey to those sleeping outside, and we will sleep in the churchyard that adjoins the cathedral." The monks were reluctant at first, but they did what the oldest monk said. By the end of the winter, there was still enough food and shelter for everyone. They learned that sometimes helping others means you must give more help than you first expected.
Aquatic. Aquatic.
If a plant or animal is aquatic, it lives or grows in water.
The dolphin is an aquatic mammal.
Biosphere. Biosphere.
The biosphere is the Earth's surface and atmosphere where there are living things.
Birds, trees, and worms all thrive in the biosphere.
Bizarre. Bizarre.
When something is bizarre, it is very strange.
My bizarre dreams make no sense to me when I am awake.
Celsius. Celsius.
Celsius is a scale for measuring temperature.
Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius.
Coarse. Coarse.
If something is coarse, that means it has a rough texture.
The coarse sweater made my skin itch.
Companion. Companion.
A companion is a person that someone spends a lot of time with.
I always walk to school with my companion, Frank.
Digest. Digest.
To digest means to swallow food and pass it through the body.
Allow some time for a food to be digested before going swimming.
Duration. Duration.
The duration of an event is the time during which it happens.
The girls watched television for the duration of the evening.
Ecology. Ecology.
Ecology is the study of the environment and living things.
We study ecology to learn how to help improve the earth.
Feat. Feat.
A feat is an impressive or difficult achievement or action.
The elephant standing up on one leg was a feat.
Infinite. Infinite.
If something is infinite, it has no limit or end.
Many scientists believe that the universe is infinite.
Nucleus. Nucleus.
The nucleus is the central part of an atom or cell.
The nucleus is made up of many tiny particles.
Parasite. Parasite.
A parasite is a tiny animal or plant that attaches to another animal to get food.
The sick dog was covered in parasites.
Prominent. Prominent.
When something is prominent, it is important and well known.
Queen Victoria was a prominent person in history.
Repetitive. Repetitive.
When something is repetitive, it is repeated many times and becomes boring.
Working on an assembly line making cars every day is a repetitive job.
Reproductive. Reproductive.
If something is reproductive, it is a living thing which can produce young.
The reproductive system of a plant is simple.
Temperate. Temperate.
When a place is temperate, it never gets too hot or cold.
In Peru, the weather is temperate and rarely gets too hot or cold.
Tolerance. Tolerance.
Tolerance is the ability to accept something unfavorable or to allow the freedom of choice for others.
Boxers have a high tolerance for pain.
Undergo. Undergo.
To undergo an action means to have it happen to you.
The cancer patient undergoes treatments twice a week.
Vulnerable. Vulnerable.
When someone is vulnerable, they are weak and without protection.
He felt very vulnerable when he was stranded in the desert.
Small world. Even though people can't see me, I'm an important part of Earth's biosphere. Scientists who study ecology know that I was the first life form on Earth. There are more of my kind than any other plant or animal in the world. Without me, other plants and animals would not even exist. I am a protist. and my tiny body is made up of one single cell. In my small world, things can be absolutely bizarre. Unlike most aquatic plants and animals, I don't need a temperate climate. I have a very high tolerance for extreme conditions. Right now, I'm swimming around in a bucket of boiling water. The temperature is 150 degrees Celsius, but I feel comfortable. I have coarse hairs, called cilia, that help me swim around in here. I move my cilia in a repetitive motion for the duration of my swim. I cannot go very fast, though. It takes me about 5 minutes to swim a distance of just 1 millimeter. When I get hungry, I look for tiny, vulnerable parasites. I swim up to one and swallow it whole. I digest things much like people do. I have an organ that works just like a human stomach. After I eat, I release nitrogen gas. Nitrogen is a prominent gas in the Earth's atmosphere. Other plants and animals need my nitrogen to survive. My reproductive ability is my most unique trait. I don't need a companion to mate with. Instead, I undergo a process called fission, where my own nucleus splits in half. An exact copy of my nucleus is made, which forms into another protist. It really is an impressive feat. I can create an infinite number of new protists all by myself.
Archaic. Archaic.
If something is archaic, it is very old or outdated.
To be competitive, we must update our archaic equipment.
Brass. Brass.
Brass is a metal that is used to make musical instruments and ornaments.
Brass is used to make musical instruments like trumpets.
Capitalism. Capitalism.
Capitalism is an economic system where private companies make goods for profit.
Most economies in the world today are based on capitalism.
Component. Component.
A component is a part of a larger machine.
Computers have many different components, so they are complicated to build.
Dependence. Dependence.
Dependence is a situation in which somebody relies on something else.
Young children have a dependence on their parents.
Diminish. Diminish.
To diminish means to reduce or get smaller.
As the economy got worse, my savings diminished.
Drawback. Drawback.
A drawback is a disadvantage.
The drawback of having a car is that it is very expensive to maintain.
Impose. Impose.
To impose means to interrupt or force your ideas on other people.
He imposes on his wife every morning by expecting her to make his breakfast.
Industry. Industry.
Industry is a kind of business that produces services or things for sale.
The tourist industry is doing well all around the world.
Managerial. Managerial.
Managerial describes something related to a manager or management.
Nancy has a managerial position at the bank.
Medieval. Medieval. If something is medieval, it comes from the period between 650 and 1500 CE.
We visited a castle that was built during medieval times.
Obsolete. Obsolete.
If something is obsolete, it is not used anymore because something better exists.
Since computers became inexpensive, typewriters have become obsolete.
Oriented. Oriented.
When you are oriented toward something, you are faced in that direction.
He is living a money-oriented lifestyle.
Peninsula. Peninsula.
A peninsula is a large piece of land that is surrounded by the sea on 3 sides.
The state of Florida is an example of a peninsula.
Prestige. Prestige.
If a person has prestige, people admire or respect them.
The young actress gained much prestige after she won an award.
Proportion. Proportion.
A proportion is an amount that shows the link between the parts and the whole.
Only a small proportion of the people in this town actually work here.
Radical. Radical.
If something is radical, it is very new or different.
The president is planning to make some radical changes to the law.
Refute. Refute.
To refute something means to prove that it is false or incorrect.
The bank manager has refuted the claims that he lied to his customers.
Spectacular. Spectacular.
If something is spectacular, it looks or sounds very impressive.
There was a spectacular fireworks display in the park at New Year.
Weave. Weave.
To weave means to make cloth using horizontal and vertical threads.
We saw a woman weave a blanket on our vacation to South America. The weaving machine. Mr. Joseph Franklin invented a machine that could weave cloth. It wove faster and straighter than anyone could weave by hand. He decided to take it to 2 cities on a peninsula, Netherton and Wilton. In these cities, a large proportion of the people worked in the weaving industry. Joseph felt sure he could sell his machine there. Joseph first took his machine to the mayor of Netherton. "Think of the money you will earn from this machine," Joseph said to him. But the mayor was a people-oriented man. He knew about the people's dependence on weaving for their livelihood. If he bought the machine, the people would lose their jobs, so he refused to buy it. Joseph said, "We are no longer in the medieval age. Soon everything will be made by machines. Cloth made by hand will soon be obsolete. If you don't change your archaic ways, your town's income will diminish." But the mayor said, "I don't like capitalism. Don't impose your radical ideas on my town. Go away." So Joseph took his machine to the mayor at Wilton. This mayor thought Joseph's machine was spectacular and spent a long time looking at its different components made of brass. The mayor couldn't refute the fact that the machine had drawbacks that would affect the people's jobs. But he realized the machine could bring money and prestige. So he ordered Joseph to build 20 of them. Within a year, Wilton was a wealthy city, famous for its wonderful cloth. People no longer wove, but worked in managerial jobs at cloth factories instead. Nobody bought the cloth from Netherton anymore. The people of Netherton became poor and hungry. Finally, the mayor of Netherton called Joseph and said, "Now I realize that your machine is not just a crazy idea. To succeed in business, we must be willing to change." He then ordered 20 weaving machines. After that, both Netherton and Wilton became rich cities, famous throughout the land for their wonderful cloth.
Accountant. Accountant.
An accountant is a person whose job is to keep financial accounts for a business.
The accountant helped us keep track of our spending.
Capitalist. Capitalist.
A capitalist is a business person who invests in trade and industry for profit.
The capitalist invested in a factory that made wheat into cereal.
Contempt. Contempt.
Contempt is the feeling of having no respect for something.
The judge had contempt for the wicked criminal.
Crop. Crop.
A crop is something produced by the land.
I had a good crop of onions this year.
Dedicate. Dedicate.
To dedicate oneself to something means to put a lot of time and effort into it.
The nun dedicated herself to helping people in need.
Ditch. Ditch.
A ditch is a narrow hole cut into the ground by a road or a field.
When the car slid off the road, it fell into the ditch.
Enterprise. Enterprise.
An enterprise is a company or business.
My father owns an advertising enterprise.
Finance. Finance.
To finance someone or something means to provide money for them.
The government financed the scientists' experiments with new weapons.
Indifferent. Indifferent.
When someone is indifferent toward something, they have a lack of interest in it.
Lisa is indifferent toward school. She doesn't care what her final grades are.
Irrigate. Irrigate.
To irrigate means to supply water to land so that crops can grow.
In dry climates, it is important to irrigate fields of crops.
Maximize. Maximize.
To maximize something is to make it as great as possible in amount, size, or importance.
You should exercise regularly to maximize a healthy lifestyle.
Monetary. Monetary.
When something is monetary, it relates to money.
A strong monetary policy is important for a country to be successful.
Precaution. Precaution.
A precaution is an action that is meant to stop something bad from happening.
As a precaution, you should put on a heavy coat before going out in cold weather.
Preliminary. Preliminary.
Preliminary describes something that happens before a more important event.
The runners must do well in the preliminary races to qualify for the final race.
Saturate. Saturate.
To saturate something means to completely soak it with a liquid.
The sponge was saturated with soapy water and dripped all over the floor.
Simplicity. Simplicity.
The simplicity of something is the fact that it is easy to do or understand.
We were able to find the house thanks to the simplicity of the directions.
Sow. Sow.
To sow seeds means to plant them in the ground.
He always sows his garden seeds in the springtime.
Spade. Spade.
A spade is a tool used for digging.
The gardener used her spade to make a hole for the new plant.
Tomato. Tomato.
A tomato is a round red fruit, but usually eaten as a vegetable. It's often used in salads or pasta sauces.
I like tomato sandwiches.
Upcoming. Upcoming.
When something is upcoming, that means it will happen in the near future.
The kids were worried about their upcoming exam.
Life on the farm. Bill was an excellent capitalist. He financed a large aviation enterprise that made a lot of money. He knew how to maximize monetary gains in every business deal he made. Bill had one big problem, though. He was unhappy all the time. Bill knew that he had to do something about it, or he would be depressed for the rest of his life. One day, Bill was in his office when he heard a knock at the door. "Come in," Bill said loudly. His accountant, Jane, walked in. Jane said, "Sir, I haven't seen you smile in a year. What are you so sad about? Your company is doing very well." Bill told her, "I'm indifferent about my company's success. I have contempt toward my job. I just want to do something I enjoy. I've always loved growing plants as a hobby. I'm going to quit my job and become a farmer." "You're crazy," Jane said. "I don't think so," Bill replied. "I want the simplicity of a life on a farm. I'm tired of all this stress. Farming will make me happy." The very next day, Bill carried out the preliminary task of buying land and tools. Then he got to work. He sowed many types of seeds. He planted tomatoes, cabbage, carrots, and onions. "The upcoming summer is going to be very dry," thought Bill. "I need to irrigate my crops as a precaution in case it doesn't rain enough." He took his spade and dug a ditch down the middle of his farm. Water from the stream will flow down the ditch and saturate the soil around every plant, Bill thought. Bill dedicated himself to farming. After a year, his farm was producing very good crops. Most importantly, Bill was happy. He finally had the life he always wanted.
Anthropology. Anthropology.
Anthropology is the study of people, society, and culture.
In anthropology class, I learned about simple tools that ancient cultures used.
Applaud. Applaud.
To applaud means to clap in order to show approval.
Everyone cheered and applauded Manny's efforts.
Appoint. Appoint.
To appoint someone to a job means to give the job to them.
2 students were appointed to help the scientists with their research.
Compatible. Compatible.
When things are compatible, they work well or exist together successfully.
Jan and Fred are too different. They will never be compatible.
Competence. Competence.
Competence is the ability to do something well or effectively.
The job was easy because the group had enough competence to do it well.
Confer. Confer.
To confer with someone means to discuss something with them to make a decision.
I will have to confer with my wife before I can purchase a new car.
Consecutive. Consecutive.
When things are consecutive, they happen one after another without interruption.
The king ruled for 10 consecutive years.
Crude. Crude.
When something is crude, it is not exact or detailed, but can still be useful.
She drew crude hearts on the ground to show how much she loved him.
Cube. Cube.
A cube is a solid object with 6 square surfaces that are all the same size.
Please get me some ice cubes to put in my soda.
Feedback. Feedback.
Feedback is comments to a person about how they are doing something.
I asked my boss for feedback on my work.
Ignorance. Ignorance.
Ignorance of something is lack of knowledge about it.
When he failed the test, his ignorance of math was obvious.
Masculine. Masculine.
When something is masculine, it is a quality or thing related to men.
American football is usually considered a masculine sport.
Monument. Monument.
A monument is a structure that is built to remind people of a person or event.
A large monument was built to honor the brave soldiers.
Muscular. Muscular.
When someone is muscular, they are very fit and strong.
He exercised regularly so that his body could become muscular.
Posture. Posture.
A person's posture is the manner in which they stand or sit.
Your back will feel better if you improve your posture.
Situate. Situate.
To situate something means to place or build it in a certain place.
The road was situated between the forest and the lake.
Supervise. Supervise.
To supervise something means to make sure that it is done correctly.
Alan supervised the construction workers to ensure everyone's safety.
Symmetry. Symmetry.
Symmetry is the state of having two halves that are exactly the same.
The artist made sure to use perfect symmetry when painting the butterfly.
Tattoo. Tattoo.
A tattoo is a design that is drawn permanently on the skin with needles.
The surfer had tattoos on both his arms.
Undergraduate. Undergraduate.
An undergraduate is a student at a college who is studying for a bachelor's degree.
She was excited to finish high school and enroll as an undergraduate in the fall. Brothers. John and Mark were brothers, but they were quite different people. Mark looked very masculine. He had a mustache and was very muscular. He was a sculptor. He made things out of stone. Mark was a good artist, but he was not very intelligent. John looked nothing like his brother. He was small and weak, but he was very smart. John was an undergraduate in college, and he studied anthropology and history. He knew a lot about ancient cultures. The brothers loved each other very much, but they thought they had nothing in common. One day, the mayor appointed Mark to build a monument, a statue of Egyptian pharaoh Tut. Mark agreed to do the job, but he had a problem. He had no idea who Pharaoh Tut was. However, he thought he had the competence to build a good statue anyway. He made some crude measurements and sculpted a statue of a very old man with a tattoo on his chest. Mark was proud of his work, but when John saw the statue, he laughed aloud. "What's so funny?" Mark asked. John replied, "Your ignorance makes me laugh. Don't you know that Tut was only a teenager when he was a pharaoh? Let me help you. I'll supervise your work. I'll give you feedback, and we'll make this a great monument." Mark got another cube of stone. John told him what Tut looked like. "Make him tall with good posture," John said, "and make sure there is a symmetry in his body." Mark conferred with John about every detail. For 10 consecutive days, the brothers worked. At last, the finished statue was situated in front of the museum. Everyone applauded the brothers' good work. "We worked together very well. I guess we are compatible after all," Mark said. John replied, "I agree. When we combine our talents, we are capable of greatness."
Cater. Cater.
To cater to someone means to provide them with all the things they need or want.
Bill was too sick to get out of bed, so his nurse catered to his needs.
Considerate. Considerate.
When someone is considerate, they pay attention to the needs of others.
The considerate boy gave his girlfriend a present to cheer her up when she was sad.
Consumption. Consumption.
The consumption of food or drink is the act of eating or drinking it.
These apples are too rotten for consumption.
Criteria. Criteria. Criteria are factors on which a person judges or decides something.
Before she got the job, she had to meet all the necessary criteria.
Crust. Crust.
Crust is the tough outer part of a loaf of bread.
The little boy never ate the crust of his pizza.
Entitle. Entitle.
To entitle someone means to give them the right to have or do something.
His golden ticket entitled him to sit in the front row at the concert.
Escort. Escort.
To escort people means to safely accompany them to a place.
Her bodyguards escorted her to the movie theater.
External. External.
When something is external, it is connected to an outer part.
It is warm inside my house, but the external temperature is freezing.
Facility. Facility.
A facility is a building that exists for a particular purpose.
There are many educational facilities in big cities.
Faculty. Faculty.
A faculty is a mental or physical ability.
The boy's mental faculties impressed all of his teachers.
Heap. Heap.
A heap of things is a large pile of them.
After the building was torn down, all that was left was a heap of bricks.
Hemisphere. Hemisphere.
A hemisphere is one half of the earth.
In the northern hemisphere, the weather is usually warmest in July and August.
Hound. Hound.
A hound is a type of dog that is often used for racing or hunting.
The men took their hounds with them when they went on the hunting trip.
Impersonal. Impersonal.
If something is impersonal, it is not friendly and makes people feel unimportant.
The boy felt scared on his first day at the big impersonal high school.
Lick. Lick.
When you lick something, you pass your tongue over it.
He licked his ice cream before it melted.
Ornament. Ornament.
An ornament is an attractive object that people display in their homes.
The woman kept some colorful ornaments on the shelves.
Pedestrian. Pedestrian. A pedestrian is a person who is walking on a street.
Drivers should be careful when pedestrians are walking around.
Sanctuary. Sanctuary.
A sanctuary is a place where people in danger can go to be safe.
The church was made into a sanctuary for homeless people in the winter.
Spectator. Spectator.
A spectator is someone who watches something, for example, a sports event.
There were thousands of spectators at the big game.
Yell. Yell.
When you yell at someone, you shout at them.
Someone yelled out his name.
The Old Hound. Elvis was a dog that loved to run. He possessed all the criteria to be a great racing dog. He had long legs, lean muscles, and a strong heart. He was so good that he never lost a race in the Northern Hemisphere. Spectators who bet on dog races always picked Elvis to win. After 10 years of racing, however, Elvis was getting old. His faculties were not as strong as they used to be. His owner got upset when Elvis started losing. Elvis's owner wasn't a considerate person, and he did not treat Elvis well. Finally, his owner decided to get rid of him. He threw Elvis into his car and took him to the middle of the forest. He tossed him out and drove away. Elvis was cold and scared. He decided to follow a small river into the city. Elvis soon found out that the city was a big and impersonal place. Everywhere he went, he saw signs that said, "No dogs allowed." Pedestrians yelled at him. He was sad, hungry, and alone. He thought that all people were as cruel and uncaring as his owner had been. He was ready to give up when he heard a soft voice say, "What a beautiful hound." Elvis looked up and saw an old woman. She said, "You're entitled to a better life than this. I can take you to a sanctuary for old dogs like you. I'll cater to all your needs. Would you like to come with me?" The woman escorted Elvis to a beautiful facility. There was a sign on the external door that said, "Dogs Welcome." The interior of the building was painted blue, and shiny ornaments hung from the ceiling. There was a heap of tasty bones and bread crusts for consumption. Elvis learned there were kind people in the world after all. He was so thankful that he jumped up and licked the woman's face. Accessory. Accessory. An accessory is a thing that is added to another thing to make it look better.
The store sold colorful accessories like bags, sunglasses, and makeup.
Acquisition. Acquisition.
An acquisition is something that a person buys or gets in some way.
Marty was happy with his new acquisition, a very fast bicycle.
Cardboard. Cardboard.
Cardboard is a material made out of stiff paper. It is often used to make boxes.
We packed our things into cardboard boxes and moved to our new home.
Dilemma. Dilemma.
A dilemma is a difficult situation in which a choice has to be made.
Choosing either the tastier or healthier drink proved to be quite a dilemma.
Elaborate. Elaborate.
When something is elaborate, it contains a lot of details.
She gave the teacher an elaborate explanation of her project.
Exact. Exact.
Exact means correct in every detail.
I know the exact location of the restaurant you mentioned before.
Facilitate. Facilitate.
To facilitate something is to make it easier.
To facilitate the meeting, Melissa used a simple computer program.
Fleet. Fleet.
A fleet is a group of ships.
The fleet of ships spent a few days at the dock.
Grid. Grid.
A grid is a pattern of squares with numbers and letters to find places on a map.
We located our town using the grid.
Import. Import.
To import means to bring in a product from another country.
Foods that have been imported are usually more expensive.
Infer. Infer.
To infer something is to decide it is true based on other information one has.
By the position of the sun in the sky, she inferred that it was noon.
Inflate. Inflate.
To inflate something means to fill it up with air.
I helped him inflate the balloons.
Innate. Innate.
When something is innate, it is something that one is born with and was not learned.
He had the innate desire to please his teachers.
Marble. Marble.
Marble is a type of rock that feels cold and is smooth when cut.
The large house had floors made of marble.
Mast. Mast.
A mast is a long pole on a ship that holds the sail.
The mast held both sails of the ship upright.
Nausea. Nausea. Nausea is the feeling of being sick to your stomach.
The doctor said the medicine would help get rid of her nausea.
Naval. Naval.
When something is naval, it relates to a country's navy or military ships.
The country sent all of its naval forces to protect them.
Pouch. Pouch.
A pouch is a small, flexible bag that is usually made of soft material.
I keep my money in a small pouch.
Saturated. Saturated.
If something is saturated, it is completely wet.
Lee's hair became saturated in the rainstorm.
Update. Update.
An update is an act of making something more modern or current.
My phone is downloading a software update. The Big Ship. Ernest looked at his fleet of ships. Usually, he used them for his firm, which imported marble statues from other countries. But today, he was going fishing, and the ship he chose was his favorite. It had an elaborate painting on the side that showed a naval battle. It also had some new updates to its computer system. His favorite ship's latest acquisition was a device with a small grid to show the ship's exact location. This new accessory kept Ernest from getting lost. At daybreak, Ernest happily sailed until he was far from land. Then he saw a small boat in the distance. There was an old man standing next to its mast. He was waving his arms in the air. There was also a boy with his head hanging over the boat's edge. Ernest inferred that the boy was suffering from nausea. Their clothes were saturated with seawater. Ernest assumed that they were in trouble. Most people never realized, but Ernest had an innate desire to help people. He began sailing toward them, eager to facilitate their rescue and thus solve their dilemma. As he got closer to the boat, he was shocked by its simplicity. The boat's wood looked no stronger than cardboard, and the equipment was old. Still, there were several large fish in a pouch in the boat. Ernest threw a large package onto the boat. He yelled, "Here! You can inflate this boat to get you back to land." "Get out of here!" screamed the old man. Ernest was confused. "Don't you need help?" he asked. "Your ship doesn't seem adequate enough to sail so far away from land." "You've just scared away a huge fish," the boy said. "We waved to let you know you were too close to us." Ernest turned around and headed home. He learned that it's better not to help unless asked to. Otherwise, you might not help anyone at all.
Attorney. Attorney.
An attorney is one who gives others advice about the law.
The attorney appeared in front of the judge for me.
Chronic. Chronic.
When something is chronic, it happens over and over again for a long time.
He had chronic pain in his chest and needed to see a doctor.
Discipline. Discipline.
Discipline is training that helps people follow the rules.
One of the teacher's jobs is to teach her students discipline.
Donor. Donor.
A donor is somebody who gives something to an organization.
He was proud to be a blood donor.
Fellow. Fellow.
A fellow is someone who shares a job or quality with someone else.
All of my fellow patients at the hospital have also complained about the food.
Gossip. Gossip.
Gossip is information that might be untrue, but is still discussed anyway.
The friends exchanged gossip about the people they knew in school.
Graduate. Graduate.
To graduate from a school means to complete and pass all courses of study there.
At the end of the spring, my friends and I will graduate from high school.
Graffiti. Graffiti.
Graffiti is words or drawings in public places.
The wall was covered with colorful graffiti.
Guardian. Guardian.
A guardian is someone who protects somebody or something.
The librarians are the guardians of the books.
Implicate. Implicate.
To implicate someone is to show that they have done a crime or something bad.
The man was implicated in the theft at the store.
Kin. Kin.
Kin is a person's family and relatives.
His kin were all farmers.
Referee. Referee.
A referee is a person who makes sure that the rules are followed in sports.
The soccer player didn't agree with the referee.
Sever. Sever.
To sever something is to cut through it completely.
He severed the string using scissors.
shaft, shaft.
A shaft is a handle of a tool or weapon.
The golf club had a long wooden shaft that he held in his hands.
Stab, stab.
To stab means to cut with the end of a sharp object like a knife.
He stabbed the fork into the potato and passed it to his daughter.
Stimulus, stimulus.
A stimulus is something that causes growth or activity.
Having a lot of money is a stimulus for people to buy more things.
Suspicion, suspicion.
A suspicion is a feeling that something is possible or true in a crime.
The police had a suspicion that the driver had stolen the purse.
Terminate, terminate.
To terminate something means to stop or end it.
The trip was terminated after the car broke down.
Theme, theme.
A theme is the main subject of a book, movie, or painting.
The students discussed the book's theme in class.
Tuition, tuition.
Tuition is the amount of money paid to go to a school.
University tuitions have increased by 50% in the last 5 years.
I didn't do it. Billy was in big trouble. The day before, a donor had given the school a painting with a sports theme. It showed a referee congratulating 2 athletes. The principal had hung the painting in front of the office, hoping that it would be a stimulus for students to play sports. The next morning, however, the painting was destroyed. There was graffiti on it, and it had many holes in it. The worst part was that one of Billy's fellow students had said she thought she saw Billy do it. But Billy didn't do it. The principal called Billy's parents and said, "Billy won't tell us the truth. He's a chronic liar and he ruined the painting. If you don't pay for it, we'll terminate his education here." Billy's parents didn't have enough money to pay for the painting and for his tuition. But Billy's parents had an idea. That afternoon, they went to see Mr. Myers, an attorney. "Mr. Myers, my son has been implicated in a crime he says he didn't do," Billy's father said. "Everybody believes the gossip. Even some of our own kin think he did it." "I believe you. My suspicion is that the tape from the security cameras will show who really did it," said Mr. Myers. The next day, Mr. Myers received a packet with a videotape from the school. It showed another student who resembled Billy walking up to the painting and writing on it. Then the student took a knife by the shaft and started to stab large holes in it. Finally, he severed the rope that held up the painting, and it fell to the floor. Mr. Myers showed the tape to the principal. "Clearly, that's not Billy," he said. "This boy is actually responsible and needs some discipline." Billy was happy that someone believed him. He said to Mr. Myers, "When I graduate and go to university, I will major in law so I can be a guardian of justice like you."
Aggressive, aggressive.
If someone is aggressive, then they constantly want to fight or argue.
Nobody liked to play games with him because he was always too aggressive.
Amnesty, amnesty.
Amnesty is a pardon given to prisoners of war.
She was denied amnesty for her involvement in the war.
Arena, arena.
An arena is a building where people can watch sports and concerts.
The new arena was all set to hold the championship match.
Auditorium, auditorium.
An auditorium is a large building used for public events.
People have gathered at the school auditorium to watch the play.
Captive, captive.
A captive is a prisoner.
The guards told the captive that there was no way he could escape the prison.
Combat, combat.
Combat is fighting between 2 people or groups.
The 2 warriors were locked in combat.
Commonplace, commonplace.
If something is commonplace, then it is ordinary.
There is nothing commonplace about the way Morris dresses.
Compound, compound.
A compound is an enclosed area, such as a prison or factory.
The workers waited outside the compound for the gates of the factory to open.
Corps, corps.
A corps is a division of a military force.
The army had a corps of archers who trained apart from the regular soldiers.
Distract, distract.
To distract someone means to stop them from concentrating on something.
The phone call distracted him so much that he forgot all about his homework.
Dumb, dumb.
If someone is dumb, they are unable to speak.
She did not share the secret. She remained as silent as if she were dumb.
Foe, foe.
A foe is an enemy or opponent.
It was hard to believe that anyone could be his foe.
Hack, hack.
To hack something means to cut it into uneven pieces.
My uncle used the axe to hack the tree into many logs.
Meditate, meditate.
To meditate means to focus or think deeply in silence.
She liked to meditate for several hours each day.
Nick, nick.
To nick something or someone means to cut them slightly with a sharp object.
While cutting the carrots, the cook nicked his finger with the edge of his knife.
Provoke, provoke.
To provoke someone means to annoy them on purpose to cause violence.
The older boy provoked Paul by calling him mean names.
Realm, realm.
A realm is any area of activity or interest.
He was not very active in the realm of business.
Reign, reign.
A reign is the period of time in which a ruler rules.
The emperor's reign lasted for only 2 years.
Rust, rust.
Rust is a red and brown coating on iron objects caused by water and air.
The old metal gate would not swing because the hinges were covered in rust.
Sacred, sacred.
If something is sacred, then it is worshipped and respected.
One religion in India will not harm cows because it believes that they are sacred. A soldier's decision. A soldier was captured while fighting in an enemy king's land. It was well known that this king would make captives fight one another. This was commonplace during his reign. For these fights, the king had built several large arenas. He often awarded the winners by setting them free or even having them join his elite army corps. The soldier, however, decided he had seen too much violence. He now felt that all life was sacred. The night before his first match, he made a risky decision. He decided that he would not engage in combat. He knew he might never be set free, but it was a decision that he was willing to accept. In the morning, he was led from the prisoner's compound to one of the king's arenas. A gate coated in rust stood between him and the floor of the auditorium. He was worried, but he knew what he had to do. When the gate opened, he calmly walked to the center of the arena and sat. He started to meditate. His foe, Darius, who was skilled in the realm of sword fighting and was typically not very aggressive, would not fight the quiet soldier until he attacked Darius first. Darius tried to provoke him by hacking at the air close to his head with his sword. But the soldier was not distracted. He sat quietly, as if he were dumb, and looked calmly up at the sky. Even when Darius nicked him on the cheek with the edge of his sword, the soldier did not move. At last, he threw down his sword and shield and gave up. "I can't fight someone who refuses to fight me!" Darius shouted to the king. The king was very impressed with the soldier. Never in any battle had he seen someone so brave. As a result, he gave the peaceful soldier amnesty. The soldier's actions proved to the king and everyone in the arena that peace was more powerful than fighting.
Aesthetic. Aesthetic.
If something is aesthetic, then it is concerned with a love of beauty.
The dresses were noteworthy for their aesthetic design.
Arrogant. Arrogant.
If someone is arrogant, they think that they are more important than others.
He is very arrogant. Even though he's not the boss, he tells everyone what to do.
Bias. Bias.
A bias is a person's likelihood to like one thing more than another thing.
The mothers had a natural bias for their own child's picture.
Canyon. Canyon.
A canyon is a narrow valley with steep walls through which a river often flows.
The canyon was so deep that the ground inside was covered in shadow.
Creek. Creek.
A creek is a stream or small river.
Only small fish lived in the shallow waters of the creek.
Drill. Drill.
A drill is a tool with a point that spins in order to make a hole.
The carpenter used the drill to make several holes in the wood.
Executive. Executive.
An executive is the top manager of a business.
After 20 years at the company, he finally became the executive.
Fatigue. Fatigue.
Fatigue is a feeling of extreme tiredness.
After 3 days with little sleep, she was feeling a lot of fatigue.
Incline. Incline.
An incline is a sharp rise in something, especially a hill or mountain.
This mountain has one of the steepest inclines in the world.
Nasty. Nasty.
If something is nasty, then it is not nice or pleasant.
The rotten apple left a nasty taste inside her mouth.
Perceive. Perceive.
To perceive something means to be aware of it.
He was talking loudly, so he did not perceive that the music had stopped.
Primate. Primate.
A primate is a type of mammal that includes monkeys, apes, and humans.
Primates use their hands for such tasks as swinging from branches.
Primitive. Primitive.
If something is primitive, then it is simple, basic, and not very developed.
The computers of the 1980s are primitive compared to those of today.
Stereotype. Stereotype.
A stereotype is a general but often incorrect idea about a person or thing.
There's a stereotype that pigs are dirty animals, but they are rather clean.
Sticky. Sticky.
If something is sticky, then it is covered with a substance that things stick to.
Place the sticky part of the tape against the paper so it will cling to the wall.
Termite. Termite.
A termite is an insect that lives in groups and feeds on wood.
The wood we found was full of termites.
Thereby. Thereby.
If we say that thereby something happens, we mean it is a result of something else.
He didn't score a goal, thereby ending his chance at setting a record.
Trail. Trail.
A trail is a path for traveling by foot through a wild area.
A narrow trail cut through the field and over the hills.
Twig. Twig.
A twig is a short and thin branch from a tree or bush.
They started the fire with a handful of dry twigs.
Welfare. Welfare.
Welfare is the health and happiness of a person or group.
Having plenty of clean water is necessary for the welfare of people.
The Man and the Monkey. While flying over a jungle, a wealthy executive's private plane crashed. Some of the crew were hurt, so the pilot decided to stay with them and wait for help. The arrogant executive, though, didn't care about the welfare of the pilot and crew. Rather, he thought he could walk out of the jungle and find a town to stay in. He followed a trail through a canyon and along a creek. The jungle was actually very stunning. If the arrogant executive had stopped to look around, he might have perceived the jungle's beauty. But he was in a nasty mood and had no care for the aesthetic value of the jungle. He continued to walk up the steep incline of the jungle's hills. Soon he was lost. Several days passed, and fatigue and hunger weakened him. He was very tired and afraid. Just then, a monkey came out of the trees. It was carrying a twig covered in honey. It walked up to a mound where termites lived. He then used the twig like a drill to make a hole in the mound. Then, very carefully, it removed the twig from the hole. The sticky twig was covered with termites. Instead of eating the bugs, the monkey offered them to the executive. But he didn't want what the monkey offered. He shouted at the monkey, "Get away from me, you stupid primate!" The executive's stereotype of the monkey was wrong. The monkey was not stupid. It knew how to find food, whereas the executive did not. He refused the help of the monkey, thereby leaving himself to starve. When the executive was finally found, he was very skinny and sick. He had not eaten for a very long time. Because he held a bias against the primitive ways of the monkey, he had gone hungry and almost died. The executive didn't understand that it was his arrogant attitude that had caused all of his problems.
Behalf. Behalf.
If something is done on one's behalf, it is done for that person by another.
The original speaker was sick, so his son gave the speech on his behalf.
Flap. Flap.
To flap means to move quickly up and down or from side to side.
The tiny bird flapped its wings and ate from the flowers.
Glacier. Glacier.
A glacier is a large piece of ice that moves very slowly.
The North Pole is covered by a huge glacier.
Globe. Globe.
The globe refers to the earth.
Water covers most of the globe.
Horizontal. Horizontal.
When something is horizontal, it is flat and level with the ground.
The Russian flag has 3 horizontal stripes of white, blue, and red.
Hum. Hum.
To hum means to make a low, continuous noise.
The man hummed his favorite song.
Inventory. Inventory.
An inventory is a supply of something.
Gwen was checking the inventory to make sure we had what we needed.
Inward. Inward.
If a thought or feeling is inward, it is not expressed or shown to others.
She had an inward feeling of guilt when she lied to her mother.
Loaf. Loaf.
A loaf of bread is bread shaped and baked in one piece.
Could you please buy a loaf of bread for sandwiches?
Oracle. Oracle.
An oracle is a person who speaks with gods and gives advice about the future.
The king went to the oracle to ask if going to war was a good idea.
Orbit. Orbit.
To orbit something means to move around it in a continuous curving path.
The moon orbits the earth.
Overview. Overview.
An overview is a general description of a situation.
My brother gave me an overview of the important parts of the book.
Preview. Preview.
A preview is an opportunity to see something before it is available to the public.
The band played us a preview of their new song.
Previous. Previous.
If something is previous, then it happened earlier in time or order.
He turned back to the previous page to read the paragraph again.
Provide. Provide.
To provide something means to supply it.
Each student was provided with a test and 3 sharp pencils.
Recur. Recur.
To recur means to happen more than once.
Burglaries seem to recur over and over in our neighborhood.
Relevant. Relevant.
When something is relevant, it is important to a certain person or situation.
The 30-year-old book about politics is still relevant to our society today.
Right. Right.
A rite is a traditional ceremony carried out by a particular group or society.
Special masks are worn during the rite when a new baby is born.
Stall. Stall.
To stall means to stop a process and continue it at a later time.
If you give the car a push, it won't stall.
Supernatural. Supernatural.
If something is supernatural, it is not real or explainable by laws of nature.
The dragon had supernatural powers, such as flying and breathing fire. Cosmo's flight. When Cosmo woke up, he was crying. He had had a dream that he was falling. This dream had recurred for the previous 5 nights. Cosmo was scared that his dreams were a preview of what was going to happen on his flight the next day. Cosmo was a supernatural being who was about to turn 15 years old. In his culture, boys of his age were required to participate in an important rite. They were given wings and instructed to orbit the Earth. After successful flights, the boys officially became men. Cosmo certainly wanted to be a man, but he was scared. He went to the oracle of a god named Dano. Cosmo said, "I'm not sure I can make such a long trip. What if I get tired? What if my strength stalls and I can't stay in the air? I'll crash and die." Dano replied, "Don't be afraid. You have all the relevant skills in your personal inventory that have been building up over the years. To ease your worry, let me tell you a little about what will happen tomorrow. You'll begin over Africa. You'll keep flying north until you come to the Himalayas. The mountaintops will look like small loaves of bread at such a high distance. The rivers of the world will look like pieces of blue string that cross the globe. Keep your body horizontal when flying against the winds of the Pacific Ocean. Keep your eyes open and enjoy the beauty of the earth. You will be fine. You'll see." Cosmo replied, "Thanks for the overview of my journey. I'll do my best." The next morning, Cosmo was provided with a divine set of wings and sent on his way. He flapped his wings and went high above the earth. He flew over mountains, oceans, and glaciers. After a while, his inward thoughts were no longer about falling. He was actually having fun. He began to hum a song as he enjoyed the view. When he reached home, his tribe was there to greet him. The chief said, "On behalf of the tribe, I declare you a man. We're proud of you, Cosmo." Cosmo was proud of himself, too.
Aquarium. Aquarium.
An aquarium is a place where fish and underwater animals are kept.
We took a trip to the aquarium and saw a scary shark.
Arbitrary. Arbitrary.
If something is arbitrary, it is not based on any plan or system, so it seems random.
The classroom had many arbitrary rules that confused me.
Autobiography. Autobiography.
An autobiography is a true story of a person's life written by that person.
I read an autobiography about my favorite entertainer.
Convention. Convention.
A convention is behavior that is considered to be common or polite.
In the U.S., a popular convention is to shake hands when you meet someone.
Gracious. Gracious.
If someone is gracious, then they are kind and helpful to those who need it.
The operator was gracious enough to help me find the number.
Improve. Improve.
To improve something means to make it better.
He studied hard to improve his test scores from the previous year.
Insulate. Insulate.
To insulate something means to protect it from heat, cold, or noise.
People can conserve energy by insulating their houses.
Intrigue. Intrigue.
To intrigue means to cause an interest in something or someone.
Her mysterious past intrigued her new friend.
Longevity. Longevity.
Longevity is the ability to live for a long time.
Sea turtles have an amazing longevity.
Misplace. Misplace.
To misplace something means to lose it.
I misplaced my wallet and I didn't find it until a week later.
Naughty. Naughty.
When children are naughty, they behave badly or do not do what they are told.
The boy had to go to his room because he was being naughty.
Norm. Norm.
A norm is a way of behaving that is considered normal in a particular society.
Wearing a heavy coat all summer is not considered a norm.
Orangutan. Orangutan.
An orangutan is a large ape with red and brown hair and long arms.
Orangutans use their long arms to swing from trees.
Overload. Overload.
To overload something means to put more things into it than it is meant to hold.
If you overload the truck, it might crash.
Philanthropy. Philanthropy.
Philanthropy is the act of helping others without wanting anything in return.
The wealthy business owner is well known for his acts of philanthropy.
Probe. Probe.
To probe into something means to ask questions to discover facts about it.
The bank probed into his financial history to see if he qualified for a loan.
Recipient. Recipient.
A recipient of something is the person who receives it.
I was the recipient of 4 phone calls today.
Reptile. Reptile.
A reptile is a cold-blooded animal that lays eggs and has skin covered with scales.
Lizards are my favorite type of reptile.
Thrive. Thrive.
To thrive means to do well and be successful, healthy, or strong.
He may be an old man, but he continues to thrive.
Ultimate. Ultimate.
When something is ultimate, it is the final result or aim of a long series of events.
By trying hard in school, I will reach my ultimate goal of becoming a doctor.
The lottery. Joe was watching television when he heard a knock at the door. He thought, "Who could that be? It's probably one of the naughty neighborhood children." Joe stood up and walked to the door. When he opened it, he saw a beautiful woman. She said, "Good morning, Joe. I have great news. You're the recipient of this check for $1 million. You won the lottery." Joe couldn't believe it. His mind was overloaded with emotions. Joe said, "Thank you, thank you." After he calmed down, Joe made a photocopy of the check in case he misplaced the original one. He sat and thought about what he wanted to do with the money. He didn't want to spend it in an arbitrary way. Joe thought, I know there are others who need this money more than I do. I've always loved animals, so I think I'll buy things for the zoo. Joe knew that the zoo was in bad shape. The cages were too small, and they weren't insulated from the cold. Animals couldn't thrive in such conditions. He took out some stationery and wrote a letter to the zoo. He offered to help the zoo buy huge cages for the large mammals and reptiles. He offered to buy healthy food for the orangutans to increase their longevity. He even said that he would buy new glass walls for the aquarium because the old ones were cracked. Joe's act of philanthropy intrigued the zookeeper. He decided to probe into Joe's motivations to learn why he spent his money to improve the zoo. It wasn't a social convention for a person to be so gracious. Joe told the zookeeper, I know it's not the norm, but my ultimate decision to help these animals is better than anything I could have done for myself. If I ever write an autobiography, I will write that this was the happiest day of my life.
Antique. Antique.
If something is antique, it is very old and rare and therefore valuable.
My grandmother's antique rocking chair is worth a lot of money.
Applicant. Applicant.
An applicant is someone who writes a request to be considered for a job or prize.
Lots of applicants came into the store when the job position became available.
Artifact. Artifact.
An artifact is an old object made by humans that is historically interesting.
We studied artifacts from an ancient Chinese settlement.
Authentic. Authentic.
When something is authentic, it is not false or a copy of the original.
We ate authentic Italian food on our vacation to Rome.
Chronology. Chronology.
The chronology of a series of past events is when they happened.
We learned the chronology of World War II in history class.
Diplomat. Diplomat.
A diplomat is a representative of a country who works with another country.
The Spanish diplomat discussed trade issues with officials in Peru.
Epic. Epic.
An epic is a long book, poem, or movie about a period of time or a great event.
The poet wrote an epic about the great discoveries of the past 1,000 years.
Excerpt. Excerpt.
An excerpt is a short piece of writing or music taken from a larger piece.
I didn't listen to the entire symphony online, but I did play an excerpt.
Fossil. Fossil.
A fossil is the hard remains of a prehistoric animal or plant.
The expert arranged the fossils to build the skeleton of the dinosaur.
Humiliate. Humiliate.
To humiliate someone means to make them feel ashamed and embarrassed.
I was humiliated when I tripped and fell down in front of the whole school.
Lyric. Lyric.
When a poem is considered lyric, it expresses a lot of emotion.
I enjoy reading and creating my own lyric poetry.
Majesty. Majesty.
Majesty is supreme greatness or authority.
The majesty of the old castle amazed the tourists who came to see it.
Monarch. Monarch.
The monarch of a country is someone who rules a country through hereditary right.
The monarch lived in a beautiful palace with a grand gate.
Precede. Precede.
To precede something means to come before it.
The hurricane was preceded by a moment of still wind and clear sky.
Punctual. Punctual.
When someone is punctual, they do something or arrive at the right time.
My mother hates being late. She is the most punctual person I know.
Recruit. Recruit.
To recruit people means to select them to join or work for an organization.
We successfully recruited someone to be the new manager.
Refund. Refund.
A refund is money given back to a person when an item is returned to a store.
I asked for a refund because the shoes I bought were too tight.
Register. Register.
A register is an official list or record of people or things.
At a wedding, there was a register for all of the guests to sign.
Renown. Renown.
Renown is the quality of being well known due to having done good things.
Michael is a singer of great renown in New Zealand.
Tusk. Tusk.
A tusk is a long, curved, pointed tooth of an elephant, boar, or walrus.
Sadly, some people hunt elephants and remove their tusks to sell them. Jen's new job. The History Museum needed to recruit a new tour guide. The director interviewed dozens of applicants before he decided to hire Jen. She was chosen because she was friendly, punctual, and had a great attitude. On her first day, Jen got to work and prepared to give her first tour. She looked at the names on the register. She saw that the Queen of England and a diplomat were visiting the museum. She thought, "It's my very first day, and I have to impress a monarch? I hope I don't humiliate myself in front of a person of such renown." Jen was nervous. She took a deep breath and said, "Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk to you about the chronology of ancient Egypt." As she turned around to show the group some artifacts, she bumped into a copy of a fossil of an authentic elephant tusk. It fell to the ground and broke into 1,000,000 pieces. "Oh, no," said Jen to herself. "I sure hope the rest of the tour goes better than this." The rest of the tour did not go any better. She tripped over an antique vase and broke a piece off of it. As she was reading an excerpt from a lyric poem, she sneezed and tore a page of the epic. After the tour, Jen approached the Queen to apologize. She said, "I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I was a terrible tour guide. Let me give you a refund for the money you spent." The Queen laughed and said, "I didn't pay, so there was no need for a refund, Jen. I loved the tour. You just have to be a little more careful and work hard to become the best at your job. Hard work precedes success." Jen smiled and thanked the Queen. She decided to be extra careful from then on. She was persistent and worked hard. In time, Jen became the best tour guide at the museum.
Coexist. Coexist.
To coexist with something means to exist with it in the same time and place.
Our pets coexist in our home with few or no problems.
Conceive. Conceive.
To conceive something means to be able to imagine or believe it.
The child could not conceive the actual size of the earth.
Dubious. Dubious.
When something or someone is dubious, they are not considered honest.
The police thought that the man's description of the crime was dubious.
Ego. Ego.
An ego is a person's sense of their own worth.
Kelly's ego made her think that she was some kind of a superhero.
Elastic. Elastic.
Elastic is a rubber that stretches when it is pulled.
He attached the elastic bungee to his legs before he jumped off the platform.
Endeavor. Endeavor.
An endeavor is an attempt to do something, especially something new or original.
The company's new advertising endeavor ended in a horrible failure.
Engrave. Engrave.
To engrave means to cut a design or words into the surface of something.
The couple engraved their names onto the old pine tree.
Excavate. Excavate.
To excavate means to dig on land and remove dirt to look for something.
The team wishes to excavate the site in hope of finding fossils.
Jagged. Jagged. When something is jagged, it has a tough, uneven shape or edge.
The swimmer was hurt when he fell on the jagged rocks.
Locale. Locale.
A locale is a small area or place where something specific happens.
The spa was the perfect locale for my mother to relax and enjoy her vacation.
Magnitude. Magnitude.
Magnitude refers to large size.
This was a discovery of great magnitude.
Mold. Mold.
A mold is a hollow container that is used to make certain shapes.
Using a cupcake mold will ensure that they come out just right.
Outright. Outright.
When something is outright, it is open and direct.
Everyone knew that the boy's story was an outright lie.
Periphery. Periphery.
The periphery of an area, place, or thing is the edge of it.
A beautiful floral pattern is on the periphery of the stationery.
Plaster. Plaster.
Plaster is a smooth paste that gets hard when it dries.
He used plaster to fill in the cracks in the old walls.
Shovel. Shovel.
A shovel is a tool with a long handle that is used for digging.
The boy grabbed his shovel and got all of the snow off of the sidewalk.
Skeletal. Skeletal.
When something is skeletal, it relates to bones in the body.
We studied the skeletal system in anatomy class.
Stumble. Stumble.
When you stumble, you move in an awkward, unplanned way.
She stumbles a lot when she is drunk.
Thigh. Thigh.
Your thigh is the upper half of your leg.
He suffered from a serious thigh injury.
Vicious. Vicious.
When something or someone is vicious, they are violent and cruel.
The vicious dog tried to bite the small child.
The Fossil Hunters. Tim and Dean were great fossil hunters. They were the very best at finding dinosaur bones. Although Tim and Dean were quite similar, they were outright enemies. The two men got into vicious arguments all the time. They couldn't coexist peacefully because their egos were too large. Tim thought he was the best fossil hunter, while Dean was sure that he was much better than Tim. One day, Tim was searching for fossils on the periphery of the city when he stumbled on a huge thigh bone. He had never seen anything like it. He took his shovel and carefully excavated the dirt around it. As he dug, he uncovered more jagged bones. He realized that he had found an entire dinosaur skeleton. Tim couldn't conceive of the magnitude of the find. He could not think of a plan to remove the huge skeleton all by himself. Such an endeavor would be beyond his capability. He needed help. He tried to think of people who would be capable of helping him remove the skeleton without breaking it. The only person Tim could think of was Dean, his enemy. Tim ran into the city to find Dean. Tim found him and said, "Dean, I found the skeletal remains of a huge animal, but I can't get the skeleton out by myself. Will you please help me?" Dean thought that Tim's claim might be dubious. He replied, "If you're serious about the skeleton, I'll help." Tim excitedly showed Dean the skeleton's locale. They worked together to carefully remove each bone. To keep the bones together, they tied them with elastic strips. When they were finished, they had uncovered a perfect skeleton. They used plaster to make a mold of the dinosaur's skull. They engraved their initials into it and gave it to the curator of a local museum. Tim and Dean found out that they could work very well together. They decided to end their feud and become friends. By combining their talents, the men became even greater than they were before.
Attic. Attic.
An attic is a room just below a house's roof.
There were 2 windows in their attic.
Chunk. Chunk.
A chunk is a thick, solid piece of something.
When they broke open the rock, they saw it was filled with chunks of gold.
Civic. Civic.
If something is civic, then it is related to a town or city, in particular to its government.
Most of the important civic buildings are located downtown.
Descent. Descent.
A descent is a movement downwards.
During the space shuttle's descent, the Earth appeared larger and larger.
Din. Din.
A din is loud, unpleasant, and extended noise.
The din of the rusty machinery made the factory a horrible place to work.
Dissatisfy. Dissatisfy.
To dissatisfy someone means to fail to please them.
He was dissatisfied with his meal.
Fuss. Fuss.
A fuss is excited or annoyed behavior that is not useful in any way.
The child made an awful fuss because she didn't want to go to bed.
Glamorous. Glamorous.
A glamorous occasion is one full of beauty and excitement.
There is nothing glamorous about where we live. It is very ordinary.
Gourmet. Gourmet.
If food is gourmet, then it is nicer and more expensive than regular food.
In order to get a gourmet meal, you have to eat at an expensive restaurant.
Hence. Hence.
The word hence shows that something is a result of something else.
Mary forgot the key. Hence, we couldn't open the door.
Intrinsic. Intrinsic.
If something is intrinsic, then it is related to the basic nature of that thing.
Paper money has no intrinsic value. It is useful simply because society says it is.
Kettle. Kettle.
A kettle is a large metal pot used for boiling liquids or cooking food.
The soup was being cooked in a large kettle.
Ministry. Ministry.
A ministry is a government department.
The Ministry of Trade is responsible for taxing imports and exports.
Ordeal. Ordeal.
An ordeal is a bad experience.
Driving in the snowstorm was an ordeal she'd never forget.
Outspoken. Outspoken.
If someone is outspoken, then they are not afraid to say what they think.
She was an outspoken critic about the new banking laws.
Overwork. Overwork.
To overwork someone means to make them tired with too much work.
After working for 3 weeks with only 1 day of rest, Judy was overworked.
Particular. Particular.
If something is particular, then it is a single important part of a group of things.
The dress shop didn't have the particular dress she was looking for.
Snore. Snore.
To snore means to make a loud noise each time a sleeping person breathes.
It was impossible to get to sleep because my husband snored.
Soundly. Soundly.
If something is done soundly, then it is done in the best or most complete way.
The nearest opponent was 10 meters behind. She won the race soundly.
Superintendent. Superintendent.
A superintendent is a person who runs a certain department or building.
The superintendent decided to close the schools because of the weather. The Butler's Bad Day. The superintendent of civic projects was a busy man. He worked every day of the week and had glamorous parties at his house every night. However, if there was someone busier than him, it was his butler. He worked all day organizing the superintendent's parties and then cleaned up after them late at night. Hence, while the superintendent slept soundly, snoring loudly in his bed, the butler was still awake. Sadly, although the butler was always overworked, his profession's intrinsic nature demanded he never be outspoken. Therefore, his employer never knew the butler hadn't slept for several days. On any day, the butler might make a mistake. One day, the superintendent said, "This particular party is important. People from the ministry are coming. Everything must be perfect." The butler began preparing at once. First, he went to the attic to get more chairs and tables. But on his descent, he realized he needed to make the food. A gourmet dinner was necessary for such a party. He boiled water in a kettle for soup and chopped some beef into chunks. Just as he was starting the soup, he remembered that he had to sweep the veranda. As he was sweeping it, he realized that he had to clean the sauna. By this time, the first guests had arrived. The veranda was still dirty. There were not enough chairs for the guests to sit on, and the soup was tasteless. Some guests were dissatisfied. They started to make a fuss, and the party was filled with a din of complaints. The superintendent's party was a disaster. He wondered why his butler had made so many mistakes. At last, the butler admitted to being exhausted. His boss felt pity for the butler. He had no idea the butler was so tired. He said, "You should have told me earlier, and then we could have avoided this whole ordeal."
Congested. Congested.
If something is congested, it is full or blocked.
Tom didn't get home until after dark because the road was so congested.
Courier. Courier.
A courier is someone who takes and delivers mail or packages.
Before trains, most couriers used horses to travel.
Deform. Deform.
To deform something means to change it from its correct or original shape.
The computer program deformed the building's picture into an unreal sight.
Etiquette. Etiquette.
Etiquette is the group of rules about how to be polite.
When in Asian countries, bowing is a form of etiquette.
Exclusive. Exclusive.
If something is exclusive, it is expensive and only for rich people.
The golf course was so exclusive that most people hadn't even heard of it.
Freight. Freight.
Freight is a set of items carried on a train, boat, or airplane.
Trade ships only carried valuable freight like silk and spices.
Garment. Garment.
A garment is a piece of clothing.
The businessman had all of his garments cleaned before the important meeting.
Insomnia. Insomnia.
Insomnia is a condition in which a person has difficulty sleeping.
Nate's insomnia prevented him from getting enough rest.
Intuitive. Intuitive.
Intuitive is knowing about something without having support or proof.
Rhonda had an intuitive feeling that Shane wasn't coming to school today.
Liable. Liable.
If something is liable to happen, it is very likely that it will happen.
During the summer months, hikers in the forest are liable to see deer and elk.
Obsess. Obsess.
To obsess about something means to think about it all of the time.
After watching the Star Wars movies, Ike obsessed about becoming a Jedi.
Overboard. Overboard.
When something is overboard, it is over the side of a boat and in the water.
Tom and Gary slipped on the wet floor and fell overboard.
Premium. Premium.
A premium is a payment that is higher than average.
Tony paid a premium for the gas because it made his car run better.
Privilege. Privilege.
A privilege is a special right given only to a certain person or group of people.
Only the best employee had the privilege of parking in that spot.
Propel. Propel.
To propel something means to push or move it somewhere.
The strong wind propelled the leaf through the air and across the street.
Socialize. Socialize.
To socialize is to have a good time with people.
I like to socialize with my classmates after school.
Suppress. Suppress.
To suppress something means to prevent it from happening.
She suppressed her urge to scream because she didn't want to be noticed.
Tram. Tram.
A tram is a vehicle like a streetcar that runs on electricity above ground.
I took the tram to 8th Avenue.
Unsettle. Unsettle.
To unsettle someone means to make them anxious or worried.
The dark clouds in the sky unsettled Beth.
Warp. Warp.
To warp means to become bent into the wrong shape.
The woman put the clock above the fireplace and the heat warped it.
Watch out! Kevin stepped off the tram and walked toward the ship, holding a package tightly in his hands. He had been hired as a courier for an important broker. All he needed to do was deliver a package to an office in New York City. The ship would take him there. When he boarded, the ship was congested with people. As Kevin walked to his cabin, he saw the exclusive first-class section. Everybody inside was wearing fancy garments. He would have liked to socialize with the people inside, but it was against proper etiquette. People paid a premium for the privilege to ride in first class. Instead, he went to his cabin next to the freight section of the boat. His room smelled bad, and the floorboards were warped and deformed in some areas. He could also hear the motor humming as it waited to propel the ship forward. Suddenly, Kevin was unsettled by something, but he wasn't sure why. He took a short walk on the ship's deck, but he still felt strange. That night, he suffered from insomnia. He couldn't suppress his obsessing over how strange he felt. Kevin went back on deck. It was cold and dark outside. He looked overboard, but it seemed that everything was all right. Just go back inside, he thought. Then Kevin saw it. A giant iceberg was sticking out of the ocean in the distance. "Help!" he yelled. People looked at him as if he was crazy, but he continued to shout until he saw the captain. "There's an iceberg out there," Kevin said to him. "If the ship doesn't move, we're liable to crash," he said, pointing toward the iceberg. The captain saw it and immediately instructed the crew to change the ship's direction. "Without your help, we would have definitely hit the iceberg. That would have been a terrible disaster," he said to Kevin. Kevin felt relieved. Now he knew to always trust his intuitive sense.
Accumulate. Accumulate.
To accumulate something is to collect a lot of it over time.
The mail accumulated in their mailbox while they were on vacation.
Aerial. Aerial.
When something is aerial, it relates to being in the air or flying.
The aerial photographer took pictures from the air balloon.
Apparatus. Apparatus.
An apparatus is a device used for a particular purpose.
The campers had an apparatus that showed them their exact location.
Avalanche. Avalanche.
An avalanche is a large amount of snow, ice, and rock falling off a mountain.
The avalanche destroyed the mountain village.
Consistency. Consistency.
Consistency is the state of always behaving in the same way.
Her consistency in archery meant that our team had a chance to win.
Discharge. Discharge.
To discharge someone is to allow them to leave from a place, usually a hospital.
I was discharged from the hospital after 3 days.
Episode. Episode.
An episode is something that happens as part of a series of events.
We watched the final exciting episode of the TV series.
Intact. Intact.
When something is intact, it is complete and not damaged.
Despite being over 30 years old, my father's model ship is still intact.
Mortal. Mortal.
When a person is mortal, they cannot live forever.
All people are mortal.
Omen. Omen.
An omen is a sign of what will happen in the future.
He thought that seeing a black cat in the street was an omen of bad luck.
Overcast. Overcast.
When the sky is overcast, it is full of clouds and is not sunny.
The sky was overcast in the morning, but by noon it was bright again.
Poignant. Poignant.
When something is poignant, it causes a very strong feeling of sadness.
The girls cried at the end of the poignant movie.
Ranger. Ranger.
A ranger is a person who protects forests or parks.
Peter wanted to be a ranger because he liked spending time outside.
Rubble. Rubble.
Rubble is piles of broken stone and wood created after a building is destroyed.
There was rubble all over the city after the earthquake.
Seclude. Seclude.
To seclude someone means to keep them away from other people.
She was secluded on an island for over a year.
Sideways. Sideways.
If something moves sideways, then it moves to or from the side.
Jim turned sideways in order to slow down and stop his snowboard.
Sob. Sob.
To sob is to cry loudly.
I sobbed when my youngest daughter got married.
Sober. Sober.
When something or someone is sober, they are serious and calm.
After the funeral, everybody felt very sober.
Speck. Speck.
A speck is a very small mark or amount.
A speck of blood appeared where the mosquito had bit him.
Upbringing. Upbringing.
An upbringing is the way that someone is taught to behave by their parents.
He had a strict upbringing and was never allowed to watch television. The Avalanche. Randy was a forest ranger. Because of his job, he was often secluded in a cabin in the wilderness. One day, the radio reported, "A change in the atmosphere is causing a lot of clouds to form. A serious storm." Suddenly, the radio went silent. The signal was lost. He went outside and looked at the overcast sky. Anybody else would have taken the dark sky as an omen of a very bad storm, but not Randy. His upbringing had taught him consistency. He had done this job for years, and nothing could stop him. Besides, he thought nothing could hurt him. Today, he had a very important task to do. The snow was starting to pile up high on the mountain. If too much accumulated, it could cause an avalanche. But Randy had an apparatus to get rid of the snow. It used dynamite to shake the snow and make the top layer of snow come down. As the snow started falling, he thought about returning to the office until the storm stopped, but he decided not to. Suddenly, he heard a loud noise behind him. It was an avalanche. He started to run, but within seconds, he was knocked sideways and buried by the snow and rubble from an old cabin that had been destroyed. An aerial rescue team came quickly. Randy was just a speck amongst the great pile of snow. But the team found him thanks to his brightly colored jacket. They quickly took him to a hospital. After a few hours, Randy woke up in the hospital. He looked at the sober faces of the doctors and saw his wife sobbing. "What's wrong?" he asked. He didn't remember what had happened. "You were almost killed," his wife said. "You broke several ribs, but the rest of you is still reasonably intact. You are really lucky to be alive," the doctor said. After 5 days, Randy was discharged from the hospital. The episode had taught him a poignant lesson. He was a mortal, and nature was much more powerful than him.
Bliss. Bliss.
Bliss is a state of complete happiness.
Every time he sees his girlfriend, he feels a sense of bliss.
Butler. Butler.
A butler is the most important male servant in a wealthy house.
Whenever he needed something, he rang a bell and the butler appeared.
Cramp. Cramp.
A cramp is a strong pain caused by a muscle after a lot of physical use.
After the marathon, Jenny got a terrible cramp in her calf muscle.
Decorate. Decorate.
When you decorate a room, you make it more attractive by adding beautiful things to it.
Have you decorated the room for Christmas yet?
Dilapidated. Dilapidated.
When a building is dilapidated, it is old and in bad condition.
Paint peeled off of the old dilapidated apartment building.
Evoke. Evoke.
To evoke a memory or emotion means to make it occur.
The picture evoked memories of when she was a young girl.
Farewell. Farewell.
A farewell is an instance of saying goodbye, or a way to say it.
She got on the plane after we said our farewells.
Faucet. Faucet.
A faucet is a device that controls the flow of a liquid or gas.
Turn off the faucet when you are done brushing your teeth.
Filth. Filth.
Filth is dirt or dirty things that disgust you.
There was tons of filth and trash on the shore of the river.
Flaw. Flaw.
A flaw is a mistake in something that causes it to be less effective or correct.
We discovered a major flaw in the metal chain.
Grin. Grin.
To grin means to smile broadly.
That joke makes me grin every time I hear it.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Housekeeping is the maintenance of a house or an establishment like a hotel.
Housekeeping is not much fun, but it has to be done.
Mound. Mound.
A mound of something is a large pile of it.
There was a mound of clothes on the teenager's messy floor.
Numb. Numb.
When a body part is numb, it does not have any feeling.
After holding my hand under the icy water, my fingers were numb.
Reckless. Reckless.
When people are reckless, they act in an unsafe way.
The reckless driver posed a threat to everyone else on the road.
Slate. Slate.
Slate is a dark gray rock that can easily be split into layers.
The roof of the church is made of slate.
Stool. Stool.
A stool is a seat with legs but no support for a person's arms and back.
I don't find stools very comfortable to sit on.
Testament. Testament.
A testament to something shows that it exists or is true.
The beautiful performance was a testament to the singer's natural talents.
Timber. Timber.
Timber is wood that is used for building houses and making furniture.
Trees in this area are grown specifically to be used for timber.
Valve. Valve.
A valve is a device attached to a pipe and controls the flow of liquid or air.
The mechanic removed the dirt to clear the engine valve.
The Butler. Greta was an elderly lady who lived alone in a huge, dilapidated mansion. The mansion was in terrible condition. It was covered with filth, and most of the furniture was broken. Plus, the kitchen sink leaked water all over the floor. Greta was too old to do housekeeping and repairs herself, so she hired a butler named Gordon. Gordon was a young, muscular man. His muscles were a testament to his strong work ethic. He believed that if he worked hard, great things would happen for him. On his first day, he worked for hours, cleaning and making repairs. He swept up mounds of dirt. He tightened the valve underneath the kitchen faucet to stop the leak. He even bought timber to build new stools for the kitchen. He worked so hard that his fingers went numb and he got cramps in his shoulders. Gordon worked hard every day. Even when tasks were boring, he was never reckless. He made sure there were no flaws in his work. Gordon was worried, however, that Greta wasn't pleased. She never expressed thanks or said that he did a good job. The lack of appreciation evoked unhappy feelings in Gordon. He even thought about quitting. But he decided the right thing to do was to keep working hard. One day, while Gordon was sweeping, Greta said, "Gordon, I have a surprise for you." He went to Greta's room and saw a beautiful slate statue. It looked just like him. It was decorated with a banner that read, "Welcome home." Greta said, "You've made this ugly old mansion look new again. I'm so thankful for your hard work that I want you to have it. I'll move into a smaller house." He grinned and gave Greta a big hug. He said, "What bliss! My hard work really paid off." The two said their farewells, and Gordon spent the afternoon admiring his beautiful new home.
Camouflage. Camouflage.
Camouflage is something used to hide people and things.
The green and brown camouflage was best used for hiding in forests and jungles.
Confront. Confront.
When you confront someone, you meet them face to face to deal with a problem.
I confronted him as he left the meeting and told him I thought he was wrong.
Contemplate. Contemplate.
To contemplate something means to think about it.
Mark took a moment to contemplate the math problem before solving it.
Contend. Contend.
To contend with something means to struggle to overcome it.
Stacy had to contend with a learning disability throughout high school.
Cot. Cot.
A cot is a small portable bed.
At the camp, the boys' cabin was lined with cots.
Enlist. Enlist.
To enlist means to join the military.
In their final year at school, the students were asked to enlist in the military.
Frontier. Frontier.
A frontier is a border between two regions or countries.
A fence was built along the frontier where the river curved.
Guerrilla. Guerrilla.
A guerrilla is a person who fights as part of an unofficial army.
Guerrilla warfare involves a lot of hit-and-run fighting.
Handbook. Handbook.
A handbook is material that gives specific information or instructions.
If you look at the handbook, it will tell you which wires to connect to the TV.
Hesitant. Hesitant.
If someone is hesitant, then they are not sure or are slow to act or speak.
Although he knew the answer, he was hesitant to say it because he might be wrong.
Lush. Lush.
If something is lush, then it is full of a variety of large, healthy plants.
The lush jungle was filled with plants, trees, and vines.
Outfit. Outfit.
An outfit is a set of clothes worn together, often for a certain job or event.
Kelly's new outfit made her look so glamorous.
Paw. Paw.
A paw is an animal's foot that has claws or soft pads.
The kitten cleaned its paws with its tongue.
Splendid. Splendid.
If something or someone is splendid, then they are very good.
From his head down to his shoes, his clothes looked splendid.
Stray. Stray.
To stray means to go in a wrong direction and become lost.
He found himself lost because he had strayed from the tour group.
Substantial. Substantial.
If something is substantial, then it is of great importance, size, or value.
The bank said that he owed it a substantial amount of money.
Torch. Torch.
A torch is a stick with one end on fire that can be carried in order to give light.
He grabbed a piece of wood and stuck it in the fire in order to make a torch.
Tract. Tract.
A tract is a large area of land.
On the other side of the mountains, there was a long tract of forest.
Visual. Visual.
A vigil is a period of watchful attention at night for a specific purpose.
He had a vigil in front of the tomb for 3 days.
Weary. Weary.
If someone is weary, then they are tired.
Jane was weary after a long day of work. The Coward's Lesson. Tom was easily frightened. He enlisted in the army because he thought the military would teach him courage. And although he needed courage, he never imagined how he would learn it. During a march across a tract of wilderness to practice guerrilla warfare near his country's frontier, Tom strayed from his squad. He had stopped to gaze at a splendid view of a lush valley. When he turned around, his squad was gone. He searched for them, but because their outfits had camouflage, he couldn't find them. It was getting dark, and Tom grew weary. All he had was a knife and his handbook. He made camp for the night. It was cold, and the ground was hard. He wished he had his cot and a blanket. Instead, he made a fire, wrapped himself tightly in his jacket, and fell asleep. A loud noise roused him from his sleep. What was that? He wondered. Then he noticed it. An animal of substantial size had left a print from its paw in the dirt. He sat closer to the fire and looked into the darkness. He imagined a large beast jumping from the gloom and attacking him. He shook with fear. Tom contemplated many different plans. He was hesitant to act. He decided to stay by the fire, but during his vigil, he heard more noises. He couldn't contend with his fear any longer. He knew what he had to do. He made a torch and followed the prints. He heard a twig snap very close ahead, but he bravely went on. Seconds later, he discovered what had scared him. It was only a sheep. Tom went back to his camp and slept. In the morning, he found his squad. He had finally learned courage. He learned that he had to confront his fear in order to conquer it.
Amid. Amid.
If something is amid something else, then it is in the middle of it.
The bee was busily flying amid the flowers in the garden.
Backstage. Backstage.
If something happens backstage, it occurs behind a theater stage.
After the show, the director went backstage and thanked the actors.
Billionaire. Billionaire.
A billionaire is someone who has at least $1 billion.
The sale of his inventions made the inventor a billionaire.
Brute. Brute.
A brute is someone who behaves or looks like a violent animal.
My older brother can act like a brute when he doesn't get his way.
Clumsy. Clumsy.
If someone is clumsy, then they are awkward in handling things.
The businessman was clumsy and dropped his work files.
Collide. Collide.
To collide with something means to hit it while moving.
The two cars collided with each other because their drivers were not careful.
Culprit. Culprit.
A culprit is someone who has committed a crime or other bad deed.
The police were still searching for the culprit from the robbery.
Evacuate. Evacuate.
To evacuate means to leave a place of danger to a place of safety.
During the flood, many families were evacuated to higher ground.
Flammable. Flammable.
If something is flammable, then it is able to catch on fire.
Be careful with that blanket near the candle. It is extremely flammable.
Mob. Mob.
A mob is a large crowd of people that often wants to cause violence.
The copier was destroyed by a mob of angry workers.
Premature. Premature.
If something is premature, then it is done too early or before the proper time.
Mark's celebration was premature because the ball hadn't fallen in the hole.
Resent. Resent.
To resent something means to have bad feelings about it.
He resented the fact that he had never been able to play an instrument.
Satire. Satire.
A satire is a work of art that uses humor and irony to make fun of something.
This book is a satire of what life is like in the army.
Scrutiny. Scrutiny.
Scrutiny is the careful examination of something.
A scientist should always practice scrutiny with their work.
Segregate. Segregate.
To segregate something means to place it in a group apart from other things.
In gym class, the children were segregated into two groups, boys and girls.
Subject. Subject.
To subject someone to something means to force them to do or experience it.
The officers subjected everyone to a careful search before they left the plane.
Testify. Testify.
To testify means to give evidence as a witness.
The judge listened while the victim testified about the robbery.
Tumult. Tumult.
A tumult is a loud and confused noise made by a large crowd of people.
She couldn't hear her friend over the tumult of the other excited guests.
Underestimate. Underestimate.
To underestimate something or someone means to think less of them than they really are.
We lost the game because we underestimated the other team's skill.
Uproar. Uproar.
Uproar is loud noise caused by people who are very angry or upset.
The fans made a great uproar when their team lost the game.
The Brute and the Billionaire. Hundreds of people had come to see a popular satire, but during the performance, a fire started in the theater. The audience and actors evacuated the building. Luckily, no one was hurt, and the fire was soon put out. Immediately, the audience assembled into an angry mob and demanded to know what had happened. It was soon revealed that the fire had started backstage, and only 2 people were in the area at the time. One was the husband of the play's star actress, the billionaire Henry Rich. The other was the theater's janitor, Bill, a large and strong man who looked like a brute. The crowd segregated the 2 men and demanded to know who the culprit was. Most of the crowd thought that Bill was to blame. They felt that he had started the fire, without ever subjecting him to any scrutiny. Bill resented this, but said nothing. Luckily, the billionaire's wife testified in his defense. "Your decision is premature," she told the crowd. "I fell down amid the tumult while everyone fled the fire. Bill rescued me and carried me out of the building. I think you underestimate his character. Besides, in order to be close enough to save me, he couldn't have been near the place where the fire began." The crowd then turned their eyes to the billionaire. "He did it," they shouted. "Make him pay." "Wait," the billionaire said over the uproar. "I admit that I started the fire, but it was an accident. I was going backstage to see my wife and was clumsy. I collided with a lamp, and it fell to the floor. It fell into some flammable clothing, a fire started, and I fled." The mob was surprised. The man they blamed was innocent, and the billionaire was guilty. To pay for his error, the billionaire not only repaired the theater, but had it remade to be better than before. Accelerate. Accelerate. To accelerate means to increase in speed.
When he stepped on the gas pedal, the motorcycle accelerated.
Anew. Anew.
If you do something anew, you do it again, possibly in a different way.
Although he had failed his driving test, he decided to try it anew.
Defect. Defect.
A defect is a part of something that is wrong or missing.
All these bottles have a defect and must be sent back to the warehouse.
Dreary. Dreary.
If something is dreary, then it is dull, dark, and lifeless.
After the fire, this section of forest is rather dreary.
Duplicate. Duplicate.
To duplicate something means to copy it.
She duplicated her friend's movements like she was in front of a mirror.
Electromagnetic. Electromagnetic.
If something is electromagnetic, it is related to electricity and magnetic fields.
Different colors of light come from different levels of electromagnetic energy.
Electron. Electron.
An electron is a particle in all atoms that has a negative electric charge.
The number of electrons in an atom determines its charge.
Glide. Glide.
To glide means to fly on extended wings with little or no effort.
When the wind is blowing, birds can glide easily through the sky.
Ingenious. Ingenious.
If someone is ingenious, then they are very smart.
Charles was the only person ingenious enough to repair the plane's engines.
Innovation. Innovation.
An innovation is a product or an idea that is new or very original.
Mrs. Johnson made a great innovation to the company's business plan.
Innovative. Innovative.
If something or someone is innovative, they can think in creative ways.
Since Peter was so innovative, he was chosen to lead the science team.
Launch. Launch.
To launch something means to make it go into motion.
The boat launched from the dock and floated down the river.
Meteorological. Meteorological.
If something is meteorological, it is concerned with the science of weather.
The thunderstorm was so large that it became a great meteorological event.
Meteorology. Meteorology.
Meteorology is the science that studies the weather.
In order to understand the weather better, you should study meteorology.
Penetrate. Penetrate.
To penetrate something means to enter into it.
The knife easily penetrated the surface of the orange.
Persistent. Persistent.
A persistent person does not give up and keeps on working.
They made persistent attempts to get him to eat.
Propulsion. Propulsion.
Propulsion is the force that moves something forward.
The propulsion lifted the rocket into the sky.
Simulate. Simulate.
To simulate something means to copy its actions or characteristics.
The French language teacher could simulate the accent of a French citizen.
Spur. Spur.
To spur someone means to urge them into action.
The coach's speech spurred her team into playing the best game of their lives.
Stimulate. Stimulate.
To stimulate something means to cause or to increase activity in it.
Doctors sometimes use electric shock to stimulate a patient's heartbeat. The Persistent Inventor. A young student of meteorology was having a difficult time with an experiment. He was attempting to duplicate lightning in clouds. He had made a device that could simulate lightning. It worked by releasing an electromagnetic pulse into the cloud. This pulse, in turn, stimulated the electrons in the cloud's particles. Then, the electrons produced lightning. But his meteorological experiment had a major defect. He couldn't get the device into the sky. He had tied it to balloons, but they had burst. He had shot the device from a cannon, but the force of the cannon had damaged it. "You should give up," his friends told him. "You'll never get that thing into the air." But his friends' criticisms only spurred him to try again. The student was very innovative, and at last, he thought he had an innovation that would work. He attached wings to the device, and on one dreary day, when clouds blocked the light of the sun, he started his experiment anew. He placed the device on a rocket and launched it into the sky. The propulsion of the rocket carried the device high into the air. The rocket accelerated into the clouds and then released the device. It glided on its wings through the clouds, and when it penetrated the center of a large black cloud, it emitted the electromagnetic pulse. And just as he had predicted, lightning shot from the cloud. He called his professors, and the next day they came to watch. He successfully duplicated the experiment. His teachers were extremely impressed and called the student and his invention ingenious. The student was given many awards and became a famous inventor. He had not given up. He had remained persistent and succeeded.
Beforehand. Beforehand.
If something is done beforehand, then it is done in advance.
He packed his luggage beforehand, so he was able to leave right away.
Blurred. Blurred.
Something blurred is not seen clearly.
There was blurred photographs of what was supposed to be a flying saucer.
Centigrade. Centigrade.
If a temperature is given in centigrade, it is the same as the temperature in Celsius.
During the springtime, the temperature gets as warm as 26 degrees centigrade.
Chatter. Chatter.
To chatter means to talk quickly about unimportant things.
The children chattered in the back of the classroom.
Concerto. Concerto.
A concerto is music played with an orchestra but features a solo instrument.
The piano concerto had a section in which only the piano plays.
Condense. Condense.
To condense a gas means to make it a liquid.
The cool air made tiny drops of water condense on the tops of the grass.
Deteriorate. Deteriorate. To deteriorate means to become steadily worse.
The nation's economy continued to deteriorate despite the politicians' efforts.
Degree. Degree.
Degree is a unit for measuring temperature.
The thermometer recorded a temperature of 38 degrees Celsius.
Exterior. Exterior.
An exterior is the outside surface of something.
The exterior of the nut was hard and woody, but the inside was soft and delicious.
Hardy. Hardy.
If someone or something is hearty, then they are loud and happy.
The grandmother ended her story with a hearty laugh that pleased her grandchild.
Hospitable. Hospitable.
If someone is hospitable, they are friendly to strangers.
At dinner, my dad was very hospitable to my friends.
Humor. Humor.
Humor can be something that makes you laugh, and it can also refer to your feelings.
He woke up in an ill humor, angry at everyone.
Manor. Manor.
A manor is a large house with many rooms.
The manor had over 40 rooms and beautiful gardens.
Monastery. Monastery.
A monastery is a building in which monks live.
The monks at this monastery are famous for their bread and music.
Nursery. Nursery.
A nursery is a room where babies and children sleep, play, or are cared for.
The children kissed their parents goodnight and went upstairs to the nursery.
Outstretched. Outstretched.
If something is outstretched, then it is extended to its full length.
The cat stood on its back legs with its front legs outstretched.
Parcel. Parcel.
A parcel is a package of things to be carried or mailed somewhere.
The parcel looked like it had been stepped on by someone.
Profile. Profile.
A profile is an outline of a face, usually as seen from the side.
The drawing of Olivia's profile came out very well.
Winding. Winding.
If something is winding, then it follows a twisting course.
The winding river turned and looped around the hills.
Zip. Zip.
To zip something means to close it with a zipper.
She zipped her backpack closed after putting her books inside it.
The nurse's lesson. One of the children in the nursery was sick. The child's mother, who usually chattered constantly, was quiet and worried. She knew that if she did not act quickly, the child's condition would deteriorate. She summoned the children's nurse and said to her, "The monks made a medicine that can cure my child's sickness. Please hurry tonight to the monastery and get it." The nurse immediately hurried from the manor to get the medicine. The monastery was far away, and she had to walk along a dark and winding trail. The temperature was close to 0 degrees centigrade, and it was raining. Luckily, the nurse had grabbed her raincoat beforehand. She zipped it up and pulled the hood over her head. "I'll never make it there," she thought. "Perhaps I should return and go in the morning." But she remembered the sick child and decided to continue. She could see the gleam of a light in the distance, and finally she arrived at the monastery. It was very late. She feared the monks would not be hospitable. But she approached the door and knocked anyway. The rain had condensed on the exterior of the windows by the door. All she could see was the blurred profile of a large man coming to answer the door. Again, she was filled with fear. But the monk smiled at her with good humor when he opened the door. He took her outstretched hand and welcomed her with a hearty voice. The place was warm, and she heard a concerto playing in another room. She relaxed. "How can I help you?" the monk asked, and the nurse explained the situation. He instantly knew what to do. He grabbed a parcel of medicine and took her back to the manor in a carriage. The medicine worked. The nurse was happy she had kept going through the bad weather and found the monastery. Now the boy would be able to get better, and the mother would be happy again.
Abolish. Abolish.
To abolish something means to put an end to it, such as a system or law.
President Lincoln abolished slavery in the U.S.
Amend. Amend.
To amend something means to change it to improve or make it accurate.
The countries were in agreement that the treaty needed to be amended.
Aspire. Aspire.
To aspire means to have a strong desire to achieve or do something.
George aspired to be a doctor from a young age.
Censor. Censor.
To censor information means to remove it if it is dangerous, rude, or rebellious.
To protect innocent people, the location of the bomb was censored.
Charter. Charter.
A charter is a document that describes the rights of an organization or group.
The company charter explained that all employees had to pay a tax.
Constitution. Constitution.
A constitution is a document of principles for a government.
The country's constitution said a prime minister could only serve 3 terms.
Cosmopolitan. Cosmopolitan.
When a place is cosmopolitan, it is full of people from many different places.
There are dozens of different types of restaurants in a cosmopolitan city.
Disseminate. Disseminate.
To disseminate information or knowledge means to distribute it.
The organization disseminates information about the dangers of smoking.
Flatter. Flatter.
To flatter people means to praise them in an effort to please them.
He was just flattering me when he said that my new dress looked gorgeous.
Infamous. Infamous.
When someone is infamous, they are well known for something bad.
That news channel is infamous for presenting biased information.
Lame. Lame.
If one is lame, they cannot walk properly due to an injury to the leg or foot.
The terrible accident left many people dead and several others lame.
Limp. Limp.
To limp means to walk with difficulty because someone's leg or foot is hurt.
After the injury, the player limped off of the field.
Outburst. Outburst.
An outburst is a sudden, strong expression of an emotion.
There was an outburst of cheers when the comedian took the stage.
Pathological. Pathological. When a behavior is pathological, it is extreme, unacceptable, and sometimes a symptom of disease.
The pathological liar could not even tell the truth about unimportant matters.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
When something is phenomenal, it is unusually great.
The child's ability to play the piano is nothing short of phenomenal.
Poll. Poll.
A poll is a survey in which people give their opinions about important things.
The poll showed that many people support the plan to stop gang violence.
Remorse. Remorse.
Remorse is a strong feeling of sadness and regret.
When I realized what I had done, I felt remorse for my actions.
Secrecy. Secrecy.
Secrecy is the behavior of keeping things secret.
The secrecy of the big organization made the government nervous.
Tackle. Tackle.
To tackle something means to deal with it in a determined and efficient way.
Such social problems need to be tackled right away.
Trance. Trance.
A trance is a state where people seem asleep and have no control of themselves.
The woman's powerful eyes often put men in a trance. The Mayor of Sherman. The cosmopolitan city of Sherman needed to elect a new mayor. Two men aspired to become mayor, Mr. Jones and Mr. Webb. Mr. Jones was a tall, handsome man. He was a phenomenal speaker, and the citizens loved him. However, Mr. Jones didn't know much about running a city. He was a pathological liar who merely flattered people with his words. Mr. Webb was very different. He was a small, unattractive man. He was lame and limped when he walked. But he was an expert in politics and knew what was best for the people. The citizens of Sherman didn't care about what the politicians had to say. No one listened to Mr. Webb, even though he had great ideas. They cheered when Mr. Jones spoke, although he didn't talk about important things. It was as if his pretty words put people in a trance. All the polls predicted that Mr. Jones would win the election. When the votes were totaled, Mr. Jones won easily. But when he took office, he didn't know what to do. He tried to hide his ignorance by working in secrecy. He added a law to the city's constitution that prevented citizens from seeing the mayor. He even censored newspapers that tried to disseminate information about his inability to help the people. Soon, however, Mr. Jones became infamous for his poor leadership. There was an outburst of anger among the citizens. They were full of remorse for their misguided decision to elect an ignorant mayor. They voted to remove Mr. Jones and let Mr. Webb take over. Immediately, Mr. Webb proved that he was a great mayor. He abolished Mr. Jones's law, and he was willing to talk openly with everyone. He tackled important issues and amended unfair laws in the city's charter. The citizens learned that a pleasant appearance and nice words do not make a good leader. The most important qualities are intelligence and a desire to help others.
Coward. Coward.
A coward is a person who lacks courage to do risky or dangerous things.
A firefighter cannot be a coward. They have to be able to act quickly.
Delete. Delete.
To delete something means to remove or erase written material.
Several lines had to be deleted from her speech.
Earnest. Earnest.
If someone is earnest, then they are honest.
The child was very earnest when she told her mother how she broke the dish.
Ethnic. Ethnic.
If something is ethnic, then it is related to a group with a similar culture.
Many sections of the city are home to different ethnic communities.
Exclude. Exclude.
To exclude someone means to not accept them into a group.
Carol was excluded from the contest because her friend was a judge.
First-hand. First-hand.
If something is first-hand, then it is from an original source.
If you want first-hand knowledge, ask someone who saw it.
Fluent. Fluent.
If someone is fluent in a language, then they are able to speak it very well.
She was so fluent in German that you'd have thought she was from Germany.
Imperial. Imperial.
If something is imperial, then it is related to an empire.
These old imperial coins were once used in the Roman Empire.
Inclusive. Inclusive.
If something is inclusive, then it is open to all groups and people in society.
A more inclusive event would have allowed children to attend.
Legislature. Legislature.
A legislature is the section of a government that makes laws.
The senator had served 10 years in the national legislature.
Linguistic. Linguistic.
If something is linguistic, then it is concerned with language.
A linguistic way of studying culture focuses on words within that culture.
Monolingual. Monolingual.
If someone is monolingual, then they speak only one language.
In today's global economy, being monolingual limits your opportunities.
Nationality. Nationality.
Nationality is an identity based on the nation from which you come.
His nationality is German, but he speaks French, Spanish, and Korean.
Patriot. Patriot.
A patriot is someone who loves, supports, and defends their country.
Every year, young patriots join their country's militaries.
Prosecute. Prosecute.
To prosecute someone means to take legal action against them.
They were prosecuted for fishing in the river without a permit.
Racial. Racial.
If something is racial, then it is related to a race or races.
The differences between racial groups are physical characteristics and culture.
Solemn. Solemn.
If something is solemn, then it is serious and honest.
The professor preferred a solemn relationship between him and his students.
Solidarity. Solidarity.
Solidarity is a union formed from common responsibilities or interests.
All the citizens came together in a show of solidarity to create change.
Tact. Tact.
Tact is the ability to avoid offending people when dealing with problems.
Since both sides would not agree, it required someone with tact to make peace.
Undermine. Undermine.
To undermine someone means to betray them or weaken their efforts or authority.
The documents helped to undermine the workers' trust in their boss's honesty.
The editor's choice. A newspaper editor sat at his desk and stared at the flashing cursor on his computer screen. He didn't know if he should delete the article he had just written or go ahead and publish it. He was scared and filled with doubt. The Empire had passed a new law stating that citizens could only use the imperial language. The editor disagreed with the law and decided to write an article about why it was wrong. He felt that the new law excluded people of different nationalities and racial and ethnic backgrounds. He had first-hand knowledge of what it felt like not to be fluent in the imperial language because he was from a remote part of the empire. He felt that the empire shouldn't be monolingual and should be more inclusive. Yet he was afraid that he would get in trouble for having this belief. Many would say that he was not a patriot, that he didn't love the empire. But he didn't wish to undermine the authority of the empire. He wanted to argue that the empire could be stronger if it accepted people of various cultures and beliefs. At last, he decided to stop being a coward and to be earnest about how he felt. He wrote the article. It wasn't rude or angry, but rather very solemn and intelligent. The next day, it was published in all the papers. Everyone was impressed by his tact and showed solidarity with his ideas. He expected to be arrested any day, but the police never came. Surprisingly, instead of being prosecuted, he became a hero. The legislature changed the law, and people from many linguistic backgrounds praised him. Never be afraid to be vocal, the editor later wrote. If you think something is wrong, then stand up for what you believe.
Constrain. Constrain.
To constrain something means to limit its development.
Jim cannot join us because he is constrained by previous plans.
Depot. Depot.
A depot is a bus or train station.
He waited for his mother to arrive at the depot.
Emulate. Emulate.
To emulate people means to imitate them because they are greatly admired.
As a small boy, he always tried to emulate his big brother.
Forefinger. Forefinger.
The forefinger is the finger between one's thumb and middle finger.
He shouted, "There it is," and pointed with his forefinger.
Guts. Guts.
The guts are all the organs inside a person or animal.
The doctor can tell you every process that happens in one's guts.
Inherent. Inherent.
When something is inherent, it is a natural part of something else.
Sweating is an inherent bodily function when exercising.
Intimidate. Intimidate.
To intimidate means to frighten others.
My dad intimidates my friends whenever they visit.
Janitor. Janitor.
A janitor is a person who makes repairs and takes care of a building.
The school janitor cleaned up the messy cafeteria.
Moist. Moist.
When something is moist, it is slightly wet.
The ground is still moist from the rain last night.
Nope. Nope.
Nope is an informal way of saying no.
He asked if I had any money, and I had to say, "Nope."
Prod. Prod.
To prod means to push someone or something with a finger or pointed object.
The bully prodded me in the chest with her finger.
Ransom. Ransom.
A ransom is a sum of money paid to a kidnapper to set the person free.
He kidnapped the prince and demanded $1 million as a ransom.
Restrain. Restrain.
To restrain someone or something means to use physical strength to stop them.
Mike restrained Alan from reaching the door.
Saliva. Saliva.
Saliva is the watery liquid in people's mouths that helps in digestion.
The baby could not keep the saliva from dripping out of its mouth.
Spit. Spit.
To spit means to force liquid from one's mouth.
He emerged from the pool and spit water from his mouth.
Sprint. Sprint.
To sprint means to run very fast over a short distance.
The kids didn't want to be late to class, so they sprinted to the bus stop.
Stunt. Stunt.
A stunt is something that is done in order to get attention or publicity.
The man jumped over the cars as a promotional stunt.
Tolerant. Tolerant.
When people are tolerant, they are respectful of others' rights and beliefs.
The tolerant leader thought that everyone was equal regardless of race.
Vampire. Vampire.
A vampire is a fictional monster that sleeps in a coffin and sucks people's blood.
The vampire snuck up on the woman and bit her neck.
Yawn. Yawn.
To yawn means to open one's mouth wide and breathe in air.
The child yawned and stretched her arms before going to bed for the night. The Kidnapping. Anne was a very quiet girl who had an inherent fear of almost everything. The kids at school would play tricks on her all the time. They would hide behind the door of the school janitor's closet, then jump out to scare her. Once, a boy dressed up like a vampire and chased her down the street. Anne hated being constrained by her fears, but she didn't know how to be brave. She was walking home from school one day when someone came up behind her. Before she could turn around, a powerful man grabbed her. She couldn't scream because a huge hand was put over her mouth. Anne knew that this could not be another stunt by her classmates. The scary man restrained her arms and legs and carried her to his house. He tied Anne to a chair. Her guts began to hurt because she was so scared. The man prodded Anne with his forefinger and said, "You'll stay right here until I get a ransom from your parents. Then I'll be rich." The dirty man spit when he talked. A string of saliva hung from his moist lips. Anne was terrified and intimidated by the horrible man. But she knew she had to escape somehow. Eventually, the man yawned. Anne waited quietly until he fell asleep. As he slept, she carefully wiggled her arms and legs until the ropes became loose. She slipped out of the ropes and carefully opened the door. She sprinted to the bus depot and boarded a bus to the police station. She told the police what happened, and they arrested the kidnapper. The kids at school were amazed. They asked her, "Weren't you too scared to escape?" She said, "Nope, I knew that I had to be brave and get out of there." The kids were very tolerant of Anne from then on. They even decided that they would emulate her bravery if they ever got into a tough situation.
Adjoining. Adjoining.
If something is adjoining, it is next to or joined with a building or room.
I couldn't sleep because the people in the adjoining room were loud.
Allege. Allege.
To allege something is to say that it is true without offering proof.
The little girl had alleged that her older brother hid her favorite doll.
Arch. Arch.
An arch is a curved opening formed under a structure such as a bridge or doorway.
The arch of the bridge was not high enough for the tall boat to pass underneath.
Assemble. Assemble.
To assemble means to get together in one place.
The parents assembled to discuss ways to improve their children's education.
Casualty. Casualty.
A casualty is a person killed or injured in a war or an accident.
The only casualty in the car accident was a woman who broke her arm.
Erect. Erect.
To erect something means to build it.
The king erected 2 towers on the north and south sides of his castle.
Foul. Foul.
If something is foul, then it is very unpleasant.
He wouldn't let his dog drink from the water because it had a foul smell.
Hectare. Hectare.
A hectare is a unit of measure equal to 10,000 square meters.
His family farm covered many hectares.
Heighten. Heighten.
To heighten an emotion means to increase the intensity of it.
The pleasant music heightened their enjoyment of the wonderful dinner.
Hospitality. Hospitality.
Hospitality is friendly behavior and entertainment shown to guests or strangers.
The travelers were amazed at the hospitality given them by the hotel staff.
Mansion. Mansion.
A mansion is a large and expensive home.
The mansion had 30 bedrooms, 2 kitchens, and a pool.
Outnumber. Outnumber.
To outnumber a group means to have a greater number than it.
The girls outnumbered the boys at the school by 4 to 1.
Overjoyed. Overjoyed.
If someone is overjoyed, then they are extremely happy.
He was overjoyed by the news of his promotion.
Pasture. Pasture.
A pasture is an area of land covered with grass for animals to use as food.
The sheep were taken to a pasture where there was more grass.
Petition. Petition.
A petition is a written request asking an authority to do something.
The citizens all signed a petition asking the mayor to repair the sidewalks.
Renovate. Renovate.
To renovate a building means to repair it or to build new structures on it.
The old fire station was renovated into an apartment building.
Revise. Revise.
To revise something means to change it or update it to make it better.
When the editor discovered certain facts were wrong, he revised the book.
Slab. Slab.
A slab is a large, thick, flat piece of stone, concrete, metal, or wood.
I looked at various slabs of stone to decorate my house.
Terrace. Terrace.
A terrace is an open area that is connected to a house or an apartment.
In the afternoons, she liked to sit on the terrace and check her email.
Turf. Turf.
Turf is a section of grass and the dirt in which it grows.
After the game, the turf looked ragged.
The Lord and the Farmers. A wealthy lord was renovating his mansion. He had added another story to his home with large windows that overlooked the farmers' pastures on the eastern border of his land. Around the mansion, he then erected a great wall. He built an arch for the gate out of huge slabs of stone. The Lord was overjoyed with the addition to his home. However, one day while he was sitting on the terrace, some farmers knocked at his door. He invited them in. Despite his hospitality, the farmers appeared to be in a foul mood. "Why are you so upset?" the Lord asked. One farmer replied, "That is actually the reason for our visit." He then handed the Lord a petition. It alleged that the shadow cast by the mansion was harming their pastures. "Your mansion now casts a shadow over several hectares of our land," the farmer explained. "The turf in the shadow has died, and our cattle now have less grass to eat." "It is too late for me to revise my plans," the Lord answered. "You will just have to live with the change." His reply only heightened the farmers' anger. They left, but they assembled that night outside the mansion's gate. They planned to destroy the mansion. The Lord's servants tried to defend the house, but the farmers outnumbered them. The servants fled, and the farmers rushed into the mansion and set it on fire. Everyone got out of the house, and there were no casualties. However, the fire soon spread from the house to the adjoining pastures that belonged to the farmers. Both sides' properties were destroyed. The Lord and the farmers were sorry for their actions. The Lord promised to pay for the burned pastures, and the farmers promised to rebuild the mansion. They had learned that when you fight, both sides lose.
Analogous. Analogous.
If something is analogous to another thing, then it is like it in certain ways.
The relationship with his teacher was analogous to that of a son and mother.
Binoculars. Binoculars.
Binoculars are a device used for seeing things that are far away.
He could see the ship on the horizon only if he used his binoculars.
Bulk. Bulk.
The bulk of something is its size.
The large elephant moved its bulk with legs as strong as tree trunks.
Comprise. Comprise.
If something comprises something else, it consists of or is made up of it.
Our school's football team is mostly comprised with seniors.
Depict. Depict.
To depict something means to show or portray it, often using art.
The statue's face depicted the general's determination and courage.
Dual. Dual.
If something is dual, then it is made up of two parts.
The room had a dual function. It was a living room, but at night it was a bedroom.
Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit is a temperature scale where water freezes at 32 degrees and boils at 212 degrees.
When the temperature dropped to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it started snowing.
Fulfill. Fulfill.
To fulfill something means to achieve or finish it.
The professor did not fulfill his promise not to miss a single class.
Grove, grove.
A grove is a small group of trees.
All the trees in this grove are apple trees.
Ore, ore.
Ore is the raw form of rock or material from which a valuable metal is taken.
The factory melted the ore and used it to make iron products.
Outback, outback.
The outback is the wild inland region of Australia where very few people live.
Many Australian farmers use the outback to raise cattle.
Outweigh, outweigh.
To outweigh something means to exceed it in value, amount, or importance.
Finding a warm place to sleep outweighed the need to find something to eat.
Paradox, paradox.
A paradox is a true statement or real event that seems illogical.
The paradox of her work was that the less she worked, the more she got done.
Pier, pier.
A pier is a structure that extends into a body of water.
If you want to catch bigger fish, then go to the far end of the pier.
Shortcut, shortcut.
A shortcut is a route that is shorter than the main route.
We got to the house early because we took a shortcut through the forest.
Tariff, tariff.
A tariff is a tax or fee paid on certain imports or exports.
Our tariff on imported wool makes foreign wool more expensive.
Thermometer, thermometer.
A thermometer is a device that measures temperature.
The thermometer outside the window indicated that it was a hot day today.
Tilt, tilt.
To tilt something means to tip it into a sloping position.
She tilted her glass and almost spilled some of the wine inside.
Vice versa, vice versa.
If a statement is vice versa, then its two main ideas are switched with one another.
Students learn from their teachers and vice versa.
Whereabouts, whereabouts.
The whereabouts of someone or something is the place where they are.
The police looked for the lost dog, but its whereabouts were still unknown. The shortcut. A truck driver was driving cargo from the outback to the coast. His load was comprised of many types of ore. He needed a huge truck to carry its bulk to a ship waiting at a pier on the country's eastern coast. At the border between two counties, he'd have to pay a tariff on the cargo. However, he could keep his money if he avoided the station at the border. He worried about getting in trouble for not paying the tariff, but the thought of not having to spend the money outweighed this concern. He took out his road map. To his surprise, it depicted a small road that had a dual advantage. It not only avoided the border station, but also was a shorter route to the coast. He decided to take the shortcut. However, along his journey, he soon ran into problems. First, he had to cross a small wooden bridge. His truck weighed too much for the bridge. It was analogous to an elephant trying to stand on a tree branch. The bridge started to break as the truck crossed, and the trailer tilted to the right. Fortunately, the truck made it safely across, but most of the ore fell into the river below. Next, it was a very hot day. The thermometer read over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The truck's engine became too hot, so the driver parked it in the shade of a grove of trees until it cooled down. Later, he took a wrong turn. He stopped and took out his binoculars. He scanned his surroundings and eventually discovered a landmark that led him back to the proper route. Finally, he arrived at the pier, but the ship wasn't there. When he asked about the ship's whereabouts, a man said that it had left 30 minutes earlier. He had not fulfilled his contract. He realized then the paradox of the shortcut. The shortest route can be the longest, and vice versa. A long route may be the fastest.